All right, let's give this a try. Can I be co-host there? There we go. All right, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission. Today is August 26th, and it is just a little after 5 o'clock. We're here for our regular monthly meeting. So let me kind of begin to bring things into place. Fortunately, we don't have to go into any great detail about what's necessary with a hybrid meeting unless you have any questions or concerns about how to conduct yourself during a hybrid meeting. Please do realize everything is being recorded at this point, and if you need anything, raise your hand or raise it electronically. I will try to acknowledge that you're there, especially if you're on the screen. If you're raising your hand and that doesn't work, fill out your hands rapidly and yell out, Mr. Chair, and boy, I'll hear you one way or another. So we do have a quorum available at this point. You have an agenda before you at the moment. I would take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
So moved and
Second.
seconded. All right. All those in favor, Nat?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Christina? Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye at this point. Just so that
about-
we,
Yeah.
right, yeah, I've got, yeah. Abby,
I vote aye.
thank you, and Bert,
Aye.
okay. And above and beyond that, who's joining us, either by way of Zoom or live and in person, Leslie? Just say hi.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Megan,
Missed that
Here.
one too.
Mike, I see you up there.
Good evening.
Yeah, and Barbara LaChance, she is part of DOT, is she?
District 5, Mass DOT, but I'll let Barbara introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Yes, Barbara LaChance. I'm a Mass DOT. I'm the District 5 planner.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the introduction as well, too. So is there any public comment for items that aren't on our agenda? Not seeing anything. You have minutes from July 22nd, 2024. Are there anything that you need to deal with in terms of errors, omissions, changes that need to take place? And if not, I'll take a motion to approve those.
So moved. Second.
Motion's now made and seconded at this point. In approval of the minutes, Nat,
Aye.
Dave, Wendy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Abby,
Aye.
and Bert,
Aye.
and the chair votes in the affirmative as well. Thank you. So we have a few things before us at this point. One thing, I'm really thrilled to bring this first one up. With our area plans, the Monomoy area plan, we are looking tonight. We've had some great conversations. Hi, Brooke. Perfect timing. That's okay. Come on in. Make yourself at home. I'll hold that thought for a second. It gets settled.
Yeah. All right.
Take a minute. That's okay. So anyways, the Monomoy area plan, we've had some conversations with them recently. Tonight joining us is Francie Neely and Matt Westfall, and welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
In some discussions with them, we've mutually decided at this point that they would like to see the plan accepted by this commission, and we think it's about high time under which to do it. It's dragged on for a while, and as I think I've said, but I'm going to say it again at this point, I really have to offer profuse apologies on behalf of this board to you all. It really took far longer than what I would have expected. And so I really do apologize for the delay in that should have happened, but it did. Here we are. I made a vow when I took over in May to try to put a lot of these things back on track, and I'm so pleased that the two of you are here tonight. So would you like to say anything, either of you?
Well, Mr. Chair. yes,
Please.
We had very constructive meeting the other day, and I thank you and Ms. Snell and Ms. Trudell for that. Highly informative, I think, for on both sides meeting. And it certainly proved to me that there is nothing that we can't work out working together
Mhm.
for the common aim to preserve and enhance the quality of life in this island. And just sitting around the table with people of good intentions makes all the difference in the world. I thank you all for listening. I appreciate so much what you just said and the apologies you offered, and we'll certainly take that back to Monomoy membership and people who have worked so hard in the Monomoy area plan, 800 plus volunteer hours. Mr. Kitchener, I'm very happy to say, was at that time part of the working group, and we thank you. And we're delighted that we're going to move forward.
Great.
Good to do.
Mr. I'm so used to first names, so
Yeah,
I
Matthew.
apologize, but
Matthew's
thank
fine.
you.
And just to add on and pick up from what Francie was saying, we undertook this exercise 2.5 years ago, coming out of the pandemic and so forth. And it was out of love for Monomoy and love for the island. And we really wanted to do something a little bit special and punch it up to create sort of a benchmark and model for the rest of the island. And I think it's really exciting now that we can move forward on this, I hope. And what I'd like to offer is, I'm a professional planner with 35 years of experience working around the world on community planning and so forth. We're here to help. And if other working groups and other communities need us to come and give some advice and some training and a little support, we're here to be hands-on and really move the planning sort of operational framework forward. And it's, I think, a perfect time now that the town master plan update is underway. And I think this is really important to get these community voices upstream and into this process. So thank you for this opportunity.
Great.
And we're here to help.
Thank you. Board members, is there anything you'd like to discuss or talk about them? Yeah.
So I'm Joe Tobin. So nice to meet you both. Francis, it's been a while. I'm gonna bring your invitation to the Matic Area Group because they really want, they were a little daunted by your proposal and your work. But I think if we could have you maybe in the room for 1 or 2 meetings, that would be fantastic. So,
My pleasure.
but thank you for your invitation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
I just have a question. I might be the only one. Is this the first time everybody's seen this? Like, this is the first time I've seen it. So am I the only one that's only seen it for? I mean, it was very, very impressive. But it was just, it was a lot to like take from Friday afternoon to now.
Yeah.
I really need some time to absorb it. It's amazing. It's an amazing piece of work. And I'm really excited to delve into it. But I just was curious if anybody else had seen it before Friday.
It was the first time I saw it, but it was actually very interesting. Reading for 92 pages, very well put together.
And you spend most of your childhood up there, so you might have some some opinions, but yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, I just like to say, it was 2.5 years ago when we started this thing. But it was a labor of love. It was a labor of love. We had incredible support from all members of our board. We put out a really first-class survey, which might be one of the things you want to share with others, because it was really well put together, not slanted in any direction at all. And that the results of that survey was really the cornerstone of this whole thing. And we split up into major subjects. I don't know why, but I got land use, which turned out to be fun. And yeah, it was a very inclusive, non-confrontational kind of, I don't know, how long was it in the end? Sort of, I don't mean the 2.5 years, but when we got it.
7, 8 months,
Yeah.
and then 3 or 4 months trying to.
Yeah,
Push it
which
forward,
was pretty fast when you do get to read it, because there's a lot, so, no, it's great. I really enjoy it. Thank you both.
Anyone else? Leslie, did you want to chime in?
I just want to, thank the work group for all of their hard work. It is a beautiful plan and it's been a long time getting to the table tonight for a vote. And most of the members have seen this before. It's been a while, but it's not new, except for to those of you that have just recently come on. And I don't want to minimize that, but I would like for you all to consider moving this to a vote tonight. They've been very patiently waiting, and I think it's time to conclude the process.
And the motion at this point, if you're so inclined, will be to accept the plan that that you have before. So I'm sorry, hi, Abby.
I'm sorry.
Put my hand up. I just wanted to talk before the motion, but I'm not gonna hold it up. So I just was gonna jump in. I just wanted to agree with what everyone said. This wasn't the first time I had seen it, because when I joined the planning board, I saw some of the work that went into this, but I agree with everyone's sentiment that this is a really well done plan. As Mike said, even though it's long, I still think it's really well done. It's a lot of great work. I also think that this shows that there is a way for us to work with these different community groups and really get everyone to a point where everyone is really comfortable, but also feels heard. So I think that in a way, that's a great model for us when we're engaging with different parts of our community. And so I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who worked so hard on this. And I agree. I think we should move it forward. And thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Abby. I really appreciate it. So I think hopefully you're all clear on what we're going to do and the action that we're going to take at this point. John, you've worked long and hard on this thing, so I am going to. Do you want to?
I would.
I kind of thought you might. I thought you might.
I would.
So with your indulgence.
So I always get the words wrong, this would be my second motion. So I would like to propose a motion that the board accept the Monomoy area plan as written.
Okay, do I hear a second to that?
Second.
Second, thank you. All right, so let's do the old roll call vote at this point. Christina.
Aye.
Joe. Aye. Mike.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Wendy.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Brooke. Hi, I know. My peripheral vision is just.
It's like, wow, I do think I'm sitting here.
Yeah, you really are sitting there. Yeah.
Aye.
Thank you. No problem. You know you can do this too to me if you need to. Nat.
Aye.
Abby.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative as well too. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Enjoy that.
Get that on camera.
There you go. There you go.
Gin be distributed.
I would just say that it feels like Francie was not expecting it to pass, because if so, she normally brings a big bag of cookies
A
or
pastry.
something. Yeah.
We meet once a month, so.
Yeah, that's.
Next time.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Yeah, I really appreciate you showing up as well too. So while we're in the middle of area plans at this point, we're gonna go to the Nantucket area plan. We need to, there's a work group member that we need to appoint at this point. JP or John Hernandez, how do you like to be now addressed?
I get called John Patrick if I've done something wrong, so.
Oh, that's
Perfect.
that sounds like your
Which one
mother.
do I deserve those days?
That sounds like your mother or dad talking.
Yeah.
John, yeah, you knew there was kind of like, oh my God, wait a minute, they used both names.
That's right.
But anyways, I really appreciate you being here tonight. I hope you've all had a chance to read the letter that he submitted to us. I don't know if you have any questions for him. Or if you'd like to say something, or maybe you'd like to say something before we even get to that stage. You don't have to.
I mean, I tried to sort of let the letter do most of the talking for me, but, you know, and I had a chance to meet some of the members the other day, and even, you know, Joe has sort of been a resource, since then, so. The only other thing I would add is that, I do feel like I've been a bit of a freeloader, you know, as somebody who's been such a, beneficiary of all the things that make Nantucket and Nantucket so wonderful. So this just seemed like an easy injection point to start doing something useful to the town. And I don't 100% know what that role is going to look like, but I'm just hoping to find some way to start contributing usefully to, you know, to Nantucket.
Well, thank you. And that's really appreciated as well too, because yeah.
Careful, it's like.
Yes.
That's the way I said that once.
I think we've all stepped up to that plate.
Yeah, you're here.
Then all of a sudden it's like the Godfather one day. Just as soon as I think I can leave, they keep dragging me back. But anyways, welcome. And I appreciate you being here tonight. Board members, anything you'd like to bring up?
I just have interviewed John or JP, and I had a very good, you know, meeting with him. He did watch in our last meeting as a member of the public, and I thought that was great. They did ask him some questions, and so I thought it, you know, went very well. And I think he understands Nantucket, especially Nantucket. So I think he's going to be a great asset.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good endorsement. Yes, I would love a motion at this point to accept Mr. Hernandez as a member of the Nantucket Area Plan.
So moved.
Second. So motion's now made second at this point. Discussion. Hearing none. All right, roll call vote again. Nat. Aye. Dave. Aye. Wendy.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Brock.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Christina.
Aye.
Did it? Bert.
Aye.
Abby.
Aye.
Okay. And the chair votes in the affirmative as well too, and there we have it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you,
volunteering. We really appreciate you volunteering.
Thank you.
Am I,
Yeah, you're free to go.
You're
You do
welcome
whatever
to
you
stay or, yeah,
Stay or leave.
but.
I'll leave you up for.
It's something.
No,
It's
no,
not
please
the
go
truck,
ahead.
Bring it back over,
Please,
whatever
go
you
ahead. And and truthfully, just my own perspective, it's really nice to see a touch base. It's the crowds out there, so thank you for stepping forward. Okay, so that's gonna bring us to the town area plan. They have, with Mary leaving, they now need a commission person. I'm gonna maybe ask Leslie to chime into this as well too, because they're kind of close to where they need to be, and it really is a question of, do we, if someone has a burning desire to be on it, I think that's fine, but we think they may be all set to go. So Leslie.
So Barry and I think Megan was there, and I had a meeting with Henry Terry last week just to get an update from him and have a chat about where they are and I think they'll be fine.
Telegraph. 500.6K.
And he seemed to indicate that, you know, they're going to be finished soon. They're trying to wrap things up. So it might not be, you know, really the best use of someone's time to insert themselves at this point.
Yeah.
So I think we should probably not appoint someone and see where they go. And I'm hoping that they'll have something to us for review by the end of the year, which I think is what he said at the meeting.
Yep.
I'm gonna be helping them. Make sure it's proper form, so.
Which is great. That's really appreciated. I think one thing we've learned with the area plans as well too is the necessity of staff being there to really help shepherd the process along too. So that is really wonderful. So is there any comments or suggestions or anything? Because I'd probably say, I don't think we have to take an official vote, but I'd take it by consent from you all, unless I hear something different, that will move ahead. And certainly if the situation changes, we'll definitely make sure we let you know. Okay, move on. So, Mike, welcome. You are on deck, sir, and that's going to bring us to the FY 2025 3C contract. So you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I hope that I'm sharing my screen, okay? You can see the slide deck. The first item here is for the 2025 3C contract. This is the contract with Mass DOT to fund the UPWP. This has been done, I guess, annually in recent years. In the past, it's been like a 4-year agreement, but I guess in recent years, it's been an annual agreement. And this, the 3C contract total is the amount that's in the 2025 UPWP, the $330,703.03. The term of the contract is from October 1st of this year, expiring at the end of September next year. And the requested action is to authorize the Director of Planning to sign and execute the FY 2025 3C contract with Mass DOT.
Yeah, are there any questions from the board on this? Discussion thereof. If not, you have requested motion that is up on the screen at this point from Mr. Burns. So unless there's any further discussion.
Make that motion to authorize the Director of Planning to sign and execute FY 2025 3C contract for Mass DOT.
Sorry, you rehearsed, you did that well. Do I hear a second? Second. Motion's now made and seconded. Discussion on the issue. Hearing none. Nat? Aye. Dave?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Joe? Aye. Christina?
Aye.
Abby? Abby?
You said aye. I'm sorry if you didn't
Oh,
hear
that's
me.
okay. We did, yeah, no, you did the microphone didn't click in at a time. And Bert?
Aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative as well, too. Thank you, everyone. So the next thing is the Pleasant Street Complete Streets Project with some recommendations from the Historic Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Correct. And just to be clear, the section that the Historical Commission had reviewed based on a letter from Sam Phelan requesting that the historical context of the corridor be factored into consideration of the selection of an alternative. This section of the roadway is between Five Corners and William Street. That was the only section of the project that the Historical Commission reviewed and provided comments on. And I'm keeping their system of options for these slides. The Historical Commission's option 1 dealt with preserving the two-way traffic flow along Pleasant Street, but aligning a sidewalk, a 5-foot sidewalk behind the trees and keeping the existing tree line between the proposed path shown here in the red dashed line and the existing roadway. The second option, which was our alternative 1, the second option was repurposing the southbound lane for bike and pedestrian usage. I think you're familiar with that option. We've discussed this in the past. And then the third option was again, a narrow 5-foot sidewalk for pedestrian only that would preserve the two-way traffic flow along the roadway. But this option 3 actually suggested replanting a tree line between the property and the proposed sidewalk. There were a couple of meetings that the Historical Commission took to review Mr. Phelan's letter, discuss with staff, and they did their own internal deliberation of what was important and contributing factors to the historical context of the corridor. The copy of the letters in your packet, and in the letter they did suggest using natural materials for curbing, medians, and for the path itself, minimize the use of signage. They did outline what they believe to be an option 1, 2, and 3. We talked about this new option 1 of retaining the existing tree line and providing a narrow sidewalk. The option 2 of repurposing the southbound lane, converting the roadway to one-way traffic flow towards town, did receive majority support from the Historical Commission, with a caveat of it being piloted and monitored to establish the feasibility. And then on the option 3, that was their less favorable option, but it did suggest preserving the two-way traffic flow replanting a tree line between the sidewalk and the property as discussed. And again, the important factors for the Historical Commission was to preserve this canopy, the tree canopy that's along the corridor, and the natural or the narrow road width. We did share the Historical Commission's letter with the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Joe might be able to add to anything that I'm not covering here, but at the December 2023 BPAC meeting, there was the recommendation for at least piloting a one-way alternative, and if it was deemed not feasible to go with a two-way alternative. And then subsequent to that, at the recent August meeting, BPAC did vote to support option 2, but again, having that follow a pilot traffic monitoring period to establish the feasibility of that, which is similar to their December 2023 recommendation. And Mr. Chair, this is really to introduce the topic. We do have a requested action here. If you'd like some time to think this over and take action at a future meeting, I think that's fine. But we did want to share that the Historical Commission did provide comments. BPAC did take action on that and support their option 2. And based on those 2 inputs, staff would recommend that the NPDC recommend to the select board that they implement option 2 for bicycle and pedestrian improvement along Pleasant Street between Williams Lane and Five Corners, with one-way traffic flow northbound, with a multi-use path in the existing southbound lane, preceded by a pilot traffic monitoring study to establish feasibility. And I hope you pardon the very verbose motion there. I'm essentially taking a lot of that from the Historical Commission's letter that they provided. So that's where a lot of this comes from. So happy to take any questions, Mr. Chair. But again, this is really to introduce this. And again, I'm gonna pick on Joe to kind of help me kind of navigate the VPAC's comments on that. I know he loves doing it. So
Yeah, let me do this. Let me go to Abby first. She's had her hand raised for a bit, and then I'll go to Joe. Abby, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, and for everyone, just so you know, I was at the couple of meetings when we did discuss this as part of the Historical Commission, and I just wanted to, as Mike pointed out, it wasn't unanimous, but it was majority, but I think the real concern was we wanted to at least see the pilot and see what happened. And the other thing that was a really big concern, as Mike pointed out, for our commission, was just using as many natural materials as possible. But also we wanted to be very respectful, as Mike pointed out. Mr. Phelan came and spoke, and I think Mike, was it his brother as well? Multiple Phelan family members came and spoke. And so we also wanted to be really respectful of what their desires were, because they were very generous with their time and, you know, working with this group on what they recommended. And they also wanted to see a pilot of the one way. So just to give a little bit of context of that's why we wanted to at least see what happens with the study. I think there was some skepticism on whether or not people thought it would work, but that was just a little bit of context for everybody.
Joe, do you want to follow up?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely were in favor of 2 and just to see how and what comes of it and what the good and the bad. But I think in the end, we're probably gonna end up with option number 1. We also, Arcus Barrow joined us and had a site plan that was showing a lot of vegetation that was over and into town properties. So we're hoping that the DPW can go and prune back whatever we can, because that roadway is so narrow, and I think that would help as far as sight lines and adding some width to this roadway, which we really need. But I do think in the end, we'll probably end up with option 1. I think that's where we're all leaning. And I think that's probably gonna be really nice, where it's just gonna wind around behind the existing trees and then come back onto the existing sidewalk path, which I think would be great. But part of that is that when you're looking at option 1, right where the arrow is, there's a lot of vegetation. And I feel like there's gonna be a blindness. So if someone's coming around, there could be people having a, impact of running into each other. So I think that needs to be taken care of. I think in the end, we're going in the right direction. But I'm glad that the Phelans came forward, really offered up suggestions and allowing us to look at different options. But also say that they are amenable and agreeable to some shape or form of, making this roadway safer for us. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
I just wondered when the trial thing would happen.
The question was timing, the timing of the pilot. And that is very dependent on, there's sewer capacity expansion work going along this section of Pleasant Street this winter. I believe that starts in the winter and kind of in the spring and may finish up late spring, summer. We don't have a firm timeline on that, but the idea is to pilot this option after that sewer work. As the street opens up, open up one lane at a time, essentially. So that's kind of our strategy
Yeah, go ahead.
Or I guess I had a follow-up, just.
Yeah.
Did you count the number of, like, did you estimate how much more is gonna be fed to Five Corners as a result?
That's basically what we want
That's
to
the
do, is
biggest
see
question.
everywhere what
Yeah.
impacts are all
It
around the
seems like-
areas. Yeah,
Doing the test in the winter is gonna really.
yeah, we know
Yeah.
there's a lot of problem spots, but what happens if this does happen? So it's kind of taking that knowledge and then kind of bring it back to us, so.
And I would say we have to be very careful because there's gonna be a lot of road work that's happening in that area with the final resurfacing and putting back sidewalks, all in that area.
Yes.
So doing a pilot during that time when there's other road closures in the area
Might not be true.
will be ineffective,
Yeah.
frankly, in
No, no.
terms of actually pulling valuable data. So I would be inclined. I don't like postponing things, but I also don't want to have it blow up and be awful
Yeah.
at a time when it's awful for reasons that have nothing to do with what you're piloting.
And I think that's why we
So-
not put a date there.
Yeah, okay, so that's the key right there.
Yeah, we don't.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Chair,
Yeah, please go
let
right
anyone
ahead.
else talk for us, because I got a lot on this.
I have one comment.
Although,
And I got a few things too. Go ahead,
Yeah.
yeah, Mike.
So in my time when I was on the tree advisory committee, this particular area came up and there was a lot of, discussion about the existing trees versus new trees, which I'm sure you went into. I mean,
Yep.
and it's just my opinion that those
are
Norway
they on the
maples
list?
have,
They have,
well, they've lived their useful life there. And I think with the disturbances in the roadways and that sort of thing, that they're probably gonna be looking for an alternative. And one of the things with tree advisory, they're just an advisory committee, but they often felt like they were like last to the party and only getting there when there was an emergency that we needed to do with trees. But my comment essentially is tree advisory's got a lot to offer about what the proper tree is to put down there if it gets to that, which would be Dave Shampoo as the tree warden.
And just real quick, I just want to follow up on that. You're sitting on that group?
No, I'm not on that anymore.
No, I'm not. So, Mike, you may just want to reach out, if you already haven't, reach out to
Dave
Dave
Shampoo.
Shampoo and just
And he-
check in, so at least we have it.
That was part of our discussion to see the
Perfect.
age, how the health of these trees. If they were gonna be not make it, then, we need to know that now, or if their life expectancy is X, but. Do we then go with the sidewalk going forward and then go to option 3? Or do we wanna bring back that same look? So that's where we kind of need them to come in, and that was something we talked about at feedback, and it's on Mike's and the DPW's list.
Christina and then Matt.
Just point of clarification, it seemed like Mike was recommending option 2, and then you turned and said option 1. And
So that's
then-
our pilot,
two different pilots.
that's the
Yeah.
pilot. To
So
see
do
what
the pilot and then go with option 1,
that's what we think is gonna happen.
but option 1 has two-way.
Two-way
correct?
traffic, and then the sidewalk goes behind the trees.
And is that town property or is that? private
That's these
property?
Elons are gonna give us a
Yes.
variance.
Okay, that's all, we wanted clarification on
Yeah.
all of that. So why would we do a pilot if we think we're gonna go with the two-way?
Because we wanted to see all the impacts and what happens.
This doesn't require any work.
Well, would literally be cones.
Big stuff.
Gotcha.
And it
And
probably
there was a study that Mike gave us along of 6 months ago or so with the study of what the impact of Five Corners and everything with this type of change.
Well, we were looking also, Williams P,
Cool.
one way.
Yeah.
Sidewalk and,
Yeah.
so we're just trying to look at all this in different areas. But you also have to remember, it's bike and pedestrian, so bike and pedestrian, the best option was number 2 for
Mhm.
based on our seats, but we understand the impacts as well, drivers, et cetera, but I think that the most important thing was once we said, oh, we'd like to do a pilot, the felons called Matt Fee immediately said, hey, no. We like the pilot, but we want to help out what variances, what easements can we be granting the town, which I think was awesome. But also all of the members on the street have stepped up and said, we don't want this. I mean, Liz Almodovar, I know she sent a letter saying we don't want this, but we understand what you're trying to do. So,
They don't
Meaning
want
they don't
any-
want one way,
they don't want.
yeah,
they don't-
Yeah.
which.
Yeah.
When you're looking out your window all day, you know, not all day, but live in the area, you see all the nuances that happen.
Right.
So. Mr. Chair, okay, Joe, thank you for being in this. So the right of way committee, that I've been on longer than anything else, by the way, has been talking about this. Like, this is not new, right? But what is new to me is that loop around.
Yeah.
When did they offer that? I have not heard that yet.
I think
That's great.
I'm sorry, you don't mind.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I
please,
believe
want
that
you
came up to the historical commission, and Abby can correct me, but I think that once we started the
Correct.
conversation, that
Okay.
they said, they reached
Okay.
out to Matt, and then they've been in the discussions and conversations, and I think this is awesome, you
No,
know.
that is, the reason I'm saying it is because I just want people to know that that's a huge
Yes,
benefit for us.
Yeah.
To have this test.
Right.
Because the negativity about the one way. If we can diffuse it a little bit by saying we have other options, but we're not gonna like put a paved multi-use path for fun over there until we know what we're really gonna do. That, and that adds to what Brooke said about the digging the street out. This is one of those, you know, sort of imperfect things that the solutions are all still imperfect. And nothing is right. But I'm gonna show your age a little bit. I wanna talk about something that hasn't been brought up. That I brought up a while ago about this on-street parking. When Rebembus's was there,
oh, yeah.
I know, I'm bringing back the memories, but. That and, what's his name, right, the Dave Marjorie thing, right? So, there was parking there.
Yes.
Up to.
Yeah.
The house that Kim did the driveway stuff, right? Has that been brought up with the one-way option to put parking back? I mean, I don't wanna like wrinkle anything, but that.
No,
Cause that was sort of my thought once, but then there was another piece with the high school intersection. Not getting improved.
I think
going
with the
on 22
sidewalk,
years.
it was not, the bike lane wasn't gonna work.
Okay, it doesn't, that's the thing, right? I see that street doesn't need a bike lane, it needs.
Well,
You're
it
already
needs a sidewalk-
going
it needs a
slow.
Sidewalk, definitely.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's my point that I'm getting to about them giving up that property, so. If we did one way, we don't have to do anything, we can just leave the sidewalk, fix the sidewalk, the current one, and then have. Part of the road be the sidewalk,
With cones,
if you will,
yes.
right? I mean, the high school intersection is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
You're gonna funnel more vehicles.
Mhm.
Yeah, over there.
Yeah.
Now. The one thing though,
Sorry, DSA Road.
if we put a roundabout there, this all goes away and then we can make this one way.
I honestly, okay, well, now.
I mean, that's it.
Now.
It goes somewhere.
Now
I
it
mean,
is.
no, it doesn't, Dave,
I
that's crazy.
honestly, Nat, I think that Sparks Ave, if you line up a Prospect Street, if you have a. Conventional four-way stop sign, so everyone can see each
We
other,
already talked about all that.
and then Toscana and all these other trucks don't have to swing around, I think if you line them up.
They'll just turn
Then
to Surfside and South Shore.
No, but
Same.
now what happens when you
When
get
you
on
do it on-
Sparks,
I know,
you're
right?
in Prospect and you're waiting for it.
Still gonna be,
So
it'll
I
just be a different kind of backup.
And then the
So-
safety of the kids, sort of, so against the roundabout.
My God, Daryl, we'll have to talk about this. So, okay, so
I'm taking cues from Dave, believe it.
I was gonna say, now here's the part that I like about the one-way beyond fixing the school. Nobody knows how to drive anymore. Like, it's getting really hard to drive here. For new people can't drive here. Like, they're having a tough time. And I see everything. And I'm like, people are doing this, jiggling in. It's gonna
That's
take a
nothing new,
while
though.
for that. Yeah, but it's getting worse. That intersection turning kind of jiggling over too pleasant to go towards outdoor power is brutal. Like, it's dangerous because
Yeah.
it guessing what somebody's gonna do
Yep.
Yeah.
more than a regular four-way.
No, I agree.
You're just guessing. And people mad at and slamming their brakes, and they finally made it past the Almodovas and they're like, I mean, I'm just saying, if we had that one way 25 years ago, we wouldn't be here talking about it. It's one of those things we're afraid to do because we think something bad's gonna happen, but it's already bad. So I'm in favor of one way, but I'm in favor of this new, I like this test thing without having to really do too much, but having a plan to, you know, answer the questions that are inevitable. There's gonna be a lot of negativity at the beginning of this. This has been tried, when did this start? This is like 5 years ago, this whole idea of one way was a little bit.
It's actually longer.
Is it the one way part?
Almost.
Okay, yeah, but that, I'm not talking about the Mid-Island plan to go all the way to Stop Shop, I'm talking about just this piece. From
Just this piece,
Williams, yeah,
but-
Williams to Five Corners.
But you can't throw that out now.
Yeah.
You can't throw that out. This is a very integral part of a much bigger thing, which I want to get to.
Yeah, I know, but that was, this is a little bit more of like reversing Dowling Street or making it back to one way. I mean, this is like a little different. This is a good idea, but it's gonna be hard to sell. And now I think it's better because of that failing,
Yeah.
giving up that inside land is a big deal.
Big deal.
So
And they should be applauded.
huge. I mean, that, I didn't know anything about that, and that is a big deal. And Zal Reinhardt, and they put on right away, do they know about this? This is a big deal, because they've been working on this for years, talking to them.
Mr. Chair, can I just confirm?
Yeah, I'd like you to actually, we need to get.
Yeah, just to be clear, that I don't think we got a commitment, or at least nothing in writing from the Phelans that they're gonna be donating anything. It was made very clear that they would welcome a testing of the one-way option. They're very supportive of doing some improvement to the corridor. And the way it was left with me was that this option one would be the most impactful. I didn't get a sense that it was a deal breaker at all. So that's great, but there is a value to the property taking. There is some impacts that are going to be felt. And I don't have a clear answer whether that's actually going to be donated. So just to not give any expectations that this is a free acquisition at all, because I don't think that it.
Yeah.
All right, so with that said, then what we can do,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just one more thing, that's it.
Yeah.
We could write something into this where if the trees die, it could be, go back to as if it was new land and plant new trees like the picture in number 3 shows, sort of behind it.
And that's what I said.
And then you just take that, I mean, you can remove pavement, put dirt back, happens every day, and then make it come back out closer to the road and the trees would be behind it.
Right.
Something like that, you know, like we did with pine trees.
So I think we
You
can know that, or have a good idea after talking to the tree advisory board.
Right.
Yeah,
as to
right.
what
That-
the bylaw
That's what we,
is.
that's what we talked about.
So that's good, I like this, this is moving the ball down the field a little bit more than.
But it's also bringing the DPW to cut back some of the vegetation that's overgrown or,
On the barber shop side, except for that
both
one
sides.
hole that
Yeah.
got moved closer.
yeah.
So it's one of thing there,
Mm.
but yes,
At the
Okay.
risk of-
Yeah, Wendy, go ahead.
Just at the risk of extending this beyond the scope slightly, past this picture on Pleasant Street where there's parking on both sides of the streets, is that something bicycle and pedestrian we've talked about? Because that's a mess. There's so many times you just get stuck.
After do.
It's just gridlock.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, you're- where you-
Because
They're
on
coming
Pleasant
down
Street,
by
there's parking
Moore's End.
by
Oh.
Moore's End, the house, yeah, there's like a lot of spots.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just are stuck. I mean, Russell Baker wrote an article about this. You
Yes.
guys remember that?
Yes.
Not so Pleasant Street.
Yeah.
The best line is, it's the tendency of the rich to overwhelm what they love.
you're talking about the rest.
Which I mean, it's all of us that are like, getting frustrated and jammed, but it's still a good line.
Well, I also think that's a problem, and then North Mills another problem,
Yeah.
just cars on the street for
Right.
no reason. They're not supposed to be, with signs up and everything.
So, and we,
I work with getting off topic, sorry.
no,
But I just wondered if that
yeah.
had been talked about.
We hadn't
because-
gone that far, so
Okay.
this whole project is to go from 5 corners all the way to the road. So it's all bike lanes, changing.
But
up
like
the
even
parking.
to Main Street, it's Main
We
Street
haven't-
with 5 corners.
I think we're gonna get through this and then we'll go back the other way,
Great, well, same street.
but yes. Mike, you taking notes?
Yeah. I mean,
Yes, correct. That's kind of outside the scope of what we're talking about here, but not,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's minimizing or marginalizing the fact that that's an issue that needs to be addressed.
So, Mike, I got a few questions for you. And just to preface things, no matter what, it's gonna be one way for a bit anyways. It'll be interesting to see how it flows because of the construction work that's gonna be done. Maybe not the best time of year, because really you want to honestly see how this damn thing works during the summertime. Truthfully, because I mean, when we started talking about making this street one way ages ago, there were a lot more moving components to this in terms of other streetscapes also having to change either direction of flow or become one way as well. So you're only gonna get a piece of really what the bigger plan is here for what's gonna happen. And I just wanna caution that just by, if you look at it and blindly say, oh yeah, that works pretty well at this point, it's gonna need a little more testing, and maybe we wanna let it run for a year and see how it goes. The idea, I'm shocked with the idea that we could actually acquire an easement through that chunk of land, but Mike, to make this thing work in terms of either a bike path or a sidewalk, I mean, you really want to run it all the way up to the Five Corner intersection. I'm sorry. Yeah, you want to run it up to that intersection. Do we need to get additional easements or stuff if we're going to proceed with any of these plans? Because that's a big thing as well, too.
Just based on the preliminary design, I don't believe there's a lot of right-of-way impact from what you're looking at here by the Phelan's property, looking north at the Five Corners. That sidewalk there, it does need to be rebuilt to meet accessibility standards, but I really think a lot of that work can be done within the right-of-way. There really wasn't a lot of right-of-way impact shown on that at all.
So even if we went to a two-way option, you feel as though that we could still extend something all the way out that would be better than what it in the current status of what it is, correct?
For pedestrians.
For pedestrians, that's okay. That, believe me, that even unto that self, that's monumental. It's worth a try. I just think it's worth a try. I mean, it's gonna happen. It's just gonna happen on its own anyway.
With the sewer work.
Right?
With the sewer work. That's gonna make it be one way, like by force.
Right?
It's gonna make it by force be one way, similar to the mess at Atlantic last year.
Right.
Yeah, but Atlantic they shut off for.
Well, no, I know. Maybe this will be shut off. I mean, I don't
But-
know if that's gonna happen or not, but. Can I just add one thing about Atlantic too? Just Joe, I mean, by removing the curbing. It's made it easy to drive down some of these streets, including Gardner now.
I don't think it's gonna come back.
And I'm just curious if we can wiggle that curbing back just a hair. I know we got that one big huge tree on Atlantic Ave. It ain't going anywhere until it goes. I know that. But there are other spots that could be widened just a little, because if we go one way, there's gonna be more cars going on Atlantic Ave, period. Like, that's just natural.
Can I just?
Does that make
Yeah.
any sense?
No, I
Just
always thought whatever that curbing material is, even if you took the width of that, say 4 or 5 inches, that's 10, 12 inches, that's
Makes a
huge.
big difference.
Yes.
Huge, just a couple.
Because
few
that's
inches.
the fear is that people
Yeah.
like they stop and
Hitting.
it's not a bad thing, but it would be great because then I don't have to listen to my brother.
By Mark Perry's little spot there is
Yeah.
where that curbing was just rolling out into the street from that tree. That'll get
Right.
cleaned up. But the
Yep.
tree's still gonna be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just won't be as bad for the drivers to think they're gonna hit the curb. But I'm just saying, all these little things that happen all at once.
Yes.
Is a good way to make these small improvements, but at the same time, sell this. As we're trying to utilize the opportunity that we have to try this out. This is not permanent. This is a test.
Yeah.
And everyone calm down, let's find something else to say is a problem. This is a great idea.
Yep.
You don't get stuff like this very often.
I agree.
Right, and
So-
going back to a topic that was brought up earlier, but I think that we can modernize, say, Gardner Street. But at the same time, not have any impact to the historic character of
Yeah,
that
no,
street.
I ain't got the answer.
With
to
just
that.
a
We'll
minus,
talk
I
about
mean,
that
it's just
later.
a minimal little change.
That's easy.
No, but that's what I'm saying,
Same
that's,
thing.
that's the balance. that we're-
Lower in the
we're all
curve,
trying to
making it
strike here.
easy to not to drive.
Right.
You know, there's ways to fix that.
There are, yeah, there are definitely.
Anyway, thank you very much, Mike, and whoever's involved in this. This is unbelievable.
So, Mike,
Yes, Mr. Chair.
yeah, when you do this, you're gonna put down traffic counters as well, hopefully. In some of the ancillary streets and stuff to begin to understand what the impacts really are.
The idea is to put out a handful of intersection cameras to count the turning movements that we're experiencing and compare that to some of the historical turning movements that we've got, and hopefully generalize what the impacts are for you all to make the decision.
Yeah, I think having that, I'm glad you're gonna do that, because having concrete data available as it's subjective data. Based upon, personal experience, I think will go a long way toward dealing with this.
Have we reached out to like Backstreet people?
There's
an answer to
We-
Backstreet. I just figured that there might have been some
let's
backlash there.
let's kind of stay on topic with
Yeah.
where we're at,
Yeah.
as opposed, I know there's a lot in that area
Yeah.
that could be taken care of.
Yeah.
But we've got a unique opportunity. before us.
Backstreet's gonna become one way without being one way, but it'll be one way. That's
Well-
one street that's gonna change. Completely.
Anyways, we're getting a little off topic,
Alright, it's okay. Alright, sorry.
so that's okay.
So
Is,
we need to vote.
well, let me just do this right now. Is there any other questions that are hanging out there at this point? If there are hands raised in the background, Megan, I haven't seen them, I'm sorry. No, that's okay. So. So. Are you gonna bring up what I wanna bring up? Let's see. Go ahead,
We're not ready for this motion
thank you.
Okay.
because if this came to me, I'd say, do the pilot before you decide on an option.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we recommend to the select board that they schedule a pilot of one-way on Pleasant Street with a full bike and pedestrian lane for a period of time adequate to show the impacts in the area on traffic and
Yeah.
determine whether option 2 is viable.
So that's kind of an understanding as well too, that even when the road work is done, depending upon what time of year that's done. This may extend a bit further.
That's why I worded it the way I did.
I am so glad you did that. You read my mind. I love
good.
it. Great minds think alike.
Can I second that?
Yeah, you can second that,
I like that. Very good.
and we'll take that as a motion. Is that good? Mike, anything else before we in discussion phase on this?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Is it settled? I don't know if you took a vote on that or not, or if you got a
Up to,
consensus.
that's why I'm asking for discussion. Okay, so. In favor, or whatever, you can say yay, nay, but Matt,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Wendy,
Right.
John. Aye. Brooke.
Aye.
Mike. Joe.
Aye.
Aye.
Christina, Abby,
Aye.
Bert,
Aye.
and the chair votes in the affirmative. Great.
Thank you,
Wow.
peeps.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks again. All right, Mike, that brings us to the safe streets and roads for all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and this is really intended to just introduce you to some of the work that's been done to date. There's a technical memorandum from our consultant, Kittleson and Associates, that's in your packet, as well as some supplemental map analysis. I really intend just to skim through this, if this is all right, just to introduce the topic to you all and let you know there's probably a lot of reading and to understand the material. But the intent is to wrap all this up with the ask is going to culminate in a joint meeting with the select board to see if some of the options that we've or improvements that we've talked about in the past that are included in our long range transportation plan are actually still supported and could be used to address as countermeasures to address some of these high crash locations. But just to talk about some of the high crash locations, again, I'm going to try to be as quick as I can through this. Obviously, most of the crashes take place in the summer. And in settled areas, they happen to take place in the middle of the day, and more of the severe crashes and fatalities do involve single vehicle crashes. And although bike and pedestrian crashes are still very important and still very high in Nantucket relative to the rest of Massachusetts, they're about 5% of the crashes in total. However, about 1 in 5 of those are actually resulted in injuries. And we did identify a high injury network that's about 10% of our roadway system, but it does carry about half of the severe or fatal crashes. And those do impact the very last bullet point there, the equity considerations. We do have a seasonal workforce that that does tend to walk or bike more often than others, and they would be the group that would be, I guess, more at risk for some of these bike and pedestrian crashes and severe crashes. Again, bike pedestrian crashes are more likely to occur at intersections based on screening of the network. 85% of the crashes are within town or within the densely settled area of the islands. Here's a map of the island with the ranking of crashes by intersection, which are in the darker red. The Milestone Rotary is, if you can find that, that is the #1 area. And the corridors are more in this, I guess, peach or orangish kind of color. And then that one section of Sparks Avenue, actually, by the Stop and Shop, is the corridor with the highest crash severity on the island. As far as the frequency, again, here's the section of Sparks Avenue there in purple, which experiences the most frequent crashes. So that's a concern, because there's definitely is some development that's anticipated in that area, and we should probably try to reduce the conflicts as much as possible in that area, since it is a documented high crash location. But there are other crash high frequency areas in that same Mid-Island area along Surfside Road, Old South Road, and Bartlett Road. Again, here's the high crash, high injury network that we've established. There's 2 tiers, tier 1 and then tier 2, obviously. Again, this is just a portion of our roadway system, but this accounts for half of the severe or fatal crashes that we experience on the islands. Here's the intersection locations, the top 20 high crash locations. Again, these are sorted by a weighted frequency. It's not just the frequency of the crash, but the severity of the crash that factors into, in this middle column here, the annual weighted crash frequency. Again, the Milestone Rotary is the #1 intersection as far as weighted crash frequency. And on the far right, again, this is kind of the topic of what staff would request a joint meeting to discuss, is the support for reconstructing the Milestone Rotary, or with reconstructing the intersection of Bear Farm Road to a roundabout. And then there's other locations as well, including our #5 location here, Surfside at Bartlett Road, where a roundabout was proposed, but that project has stalled due to lack of support. And here are the top corridors, top 10 corridors. Again, Sparks Avenue, the one section of Sparks Avenue that we did point out on the map there. Old South Road is the #2 on this list. You might remember back in 2017 when we talked about the Old South Road corridor study, where we identified a number of improvements along that corridor to not just address safety, but accommodate all modes of transportation that included bus pull-offs to get the buses out of the traffic flow to have more reliable traffic flow. Have sidewalk on the south side of the roadway to better accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists on both sides of the road. And again, as you know, that package, or the portfolio of improvements for Old South Road, it was unfunded when we requested that from town meeting. So I guess the ask would be at the joint meeting, is that worth resurrecting and bringing some of those improvements back for funding. And next steps, staff is currently reviewing the high injury network with police, fire, DPW, and town administration to make sure that at the staff level, there's a good understanding of this material. Again, I mentioned the joint meeting being requested to review the long-range transportation plan recommendations. Later this winter, after the joint meeting and after we know what solutions are supported, we will reach out to the public just to confirm that there is a public support for this strategy. And again, this effort is to wrap up by next summer. We should have a prioritized list of projects, policies, and strategies to help improve safety on the island. And if I could, I'm just going to fast forward to just two different maps, if it's all right, Mr. Chair. I just think they're interesting, if nothing else. We did have our consultant, this is buried on page 91 of your packet. We had them look at animal involved crashes. We heard deer strikes are really important. I mean, and Tom Nevers and Milestone Road did show up as a crash cluster. You can see that the reason for the crash cluster is there's a very large amount of deer strikes or animal strikes around that intersection and along Milestone Road in general. But there were some injuries that resulted along Old South Road near Amelia Drive, and then on Surfside Road at the intersection of Boulevard. And another interesting map to share with you all. Again, this is just to introduce the topic, but you can go back and look at these maps in more detail. How we getting here? Distracted driving. A good chunk of the crashes that involve vehicles do involve distracted drivers, and this is about a quarter of the crashes that exist, and you know, there are injuries that result from that. But the type of distracted driving is cell phone usage. This is documented in the crash reports that one of the drivers or one of the vehicles involved in the crash was distracted because of a cell phone or some other electronic device. And here's a map of where those occur. But again, that's a very large portion, almost 20% of the crashes are because somebody's on a cell phone or looking at a text or doing something, just not paying attention to the roadway, which if we could curb that, it would go a long way to improving safety in the community. So Mr. Chairman, I went through that about as fast as I could. Like I said, this is just to introduce this. There will be subsequent meetings that will ask for time to review additional material, and then the joint meeting, Mr. Chair, with the select board, just to confirm the recommended projects. And I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
So, Brooke, go ahead.
How do you get the data on cell phone use? Is it
Please.
observation or is it actual usage data?
No, it's in the police report that the consultants have scrubbed and looked at all the different attributes of the crash to sort them out by these different characteristics. So it's actually from the police report that's on file and reported to the state.
Sure, thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Mike, hi, Mike. The Surfside Drive, Maya Comet Road, little jiggly wiggly there. We can't realign that, can't we, because of the historic ground?
Yes, this is the number 9 intersection as far as crash severities, and that there was a crash that involved a pedestrian that I think you're all kind of familiar with using the crosswalk. There have been 2 recommendations for that intersection. One is a mini roundabout that was suggested as part of the Surfside Crossing, I believe, traffic study. There's also been a suggestion for a 4-way stop, which could happen without realigning the intersection. But these are just ideas that, you know, we'd like to see if there's some support for at least trying out like a 4-way stop as a pilot, which we've done in the past. I believe the South Shore Road, Surfside Road 4-way stop was a pilot. It just seemed to work so much better after it was implemented. So this might be another location.
Mike, I love you, know that. So you're forgetting that road is not lined up. When you try to go left on Macy's Lane from Old South, you have to drive towards a vehicle, right? Like a head-on collision to take a left to get out Macy's Lane. That's what happens at Surfside Drive. I mean, Wyckoff Road, Surfside Drive. You have to actually. You're like going head on to take a left. It's just, it's crazy. When that development went in at Ellen's Way, there was some kind of decision in there about realigning. That they were supposed to pay for that, but it got canceled, I believe, because of the findings in the ground on the right side of the road. Which is right where they had to not build any housing. So I just don't, I don't know what the answer is here. I don't think there is an answer, honestly. It's like this one of those Nantucket things that doesn't have a solution. Because we don't have the land in the right spot, like we do at Poets Corner. We got that land, but we don't have this land. So I don't mean to bring that up that way. I'm just saying it's that's a way trickier solution than anything else on this list. Because it doesn't have the ability to move the road over. Road needs to be moved over and lined up. That simple. But you can't do it.
The other road move?
Even the telephone pole's in the way, which is typical in Nantucket, but it is in the way. It can't turn right very well. Kind of dumb. It should have been moved. Easy. Move that, in my opinion. But anyway. No, I just wanted to bring that up, Mike, but everything else, I understand where, where you're coming from with all this stuff and appreciate all the work that goes into this.
So any other comments that you might have or thoughts? Then. Mike, if there's nothing else you need on this, we'll move along to the next thing.
Sounds good. And the last item, Mr. Chair, is
Mike, stop for a minute.
Sorry, Mike, it's Wendy. I just had one question about, and I don't exactly see the dates of all this data. I'm sorry, to 2020, whatever. Just wondering, like anecdotally or something this year with all the electric bikes and scooters and all this, are we on track or like?
That's Joe.
Yeah, Joe, or
Joe's got all that.
I got all that.
I just, it seems like all the problems and all that speed and these pedestrians or whatever. I was asking what a VRU is, the other vulnerable road user, I guess. They've helped me figure it out, but it just seems like we're talking about the safety, but like suddenly it's like so much more dangerous, like,
Yeah.
whoa, I almost nailed somebody coming out of Mizzenmast the other day. Like, I was like, oh my God, they're so lucky I stopped. Because they just flew down.
Dirt
fast.
bikes that you can't hear.
Yeah. Oh.
Right.
So, can I?
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
please.
So and this is right now, Mike shared this last week. I'm gonna put together an article of speed limits on bike paths.
Right, I know I just wondered.
And then
what
class
truly
3.
crashes,
Right,
like, has there been more or is it still okay? Like,
I think there's more.
it seems like there would be, but.
I mean, my daughter the other day said she was going home and she was going by Greenhound and watched these people turn and look and then literally run right at the car in front of the handlebar. So no helmet, no nothing, doing 35.
Yeah,
miles
nobody's
an
wearing
hour
helmets
in town.
anymore, it's craziness out there.
So, but I'm putting forth an article to have class 3 e-bikes be permitted, licensed like a moped, motorcycle, etc. So.
And on the road.
Be on the road only.
And 20 mile an hour.
I just wondered.
20 miles only on this bike path.
Yeah.
And then if they come up on someone to slow down. fine.
I mean, Joe, this is like jumping from rotary telephones to now, what's happening.
Yes.
It is.
All right, yeah.
It's absolutely incredible how fast, like Wendy just said, that's what I was trying to say about 5 corners. It's like navigating these things now, there's so many different things going on, different driver capabilities. It's familiarity. It's unbelievable how different things are right now.
Yeah,
And I
but you
think
watch
we
a
have to look
moped
at
driving
that.
along and all of a sudden you see with a helmet on the whole 9
Yeah.
yards, and you see an e-bike passing them
And
on.
mopeds are driven by adults.
Kid.
That's my new thing. I mean, they are.
Wow.
I mean, no, mopeds
Get the
don't
bumper
do
stickers made that.
mopeds don't do the same things as, you do not see mopeds going up on the curb, down off the sidewalk,
Yes.
over here, it's different. I
Yes,
can't
no, I
explain
agree.
it, but it is different.
And that's why I'm trying to get them classified.
I mean, it's like,
Thank you, Joe.
it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I think what you're doing
Well, I'll
is the
be
right
hated.
thing, and then the education at the school, right?
That's so I
That's
reached out to
huge.
Beth Allen. She's on board. She was hoping to have something done and in place by September. And there's no way we can get that done. But Jasper Young has said, we will help out, but we can't in the springtime. So basically get kids helmets.
Yeah.
Bike safety.
Yeah.
My brother wants to get involved. There's a lot of things like going, but. Beth Hal was like, can we do it in September? And I was like, there's no way I can organize that. I'd love to, maybe some a little bit later on. But,
Start
See-
messaging maybe,
yeah.
you know, slowly
I
getting.
think,
no, that's what
Because,
we're trying to figure out something, but it was literally, like, I wrote the thing flying to DC and I came back and all of a sudden it's just kind of, accelerating, so.
my biggest concern out of all of this, other than safety, is we don't need a movement to ban them, like we had with mopeds 35 years ago. We like these need to stay. This is one of the greatest inventions ever, but it's a toy.
Safely operated.
It's a
Yeah.
toy.
Yeah,
It is.
It truly is a toy.
And they haven't even talked about the scooter things. So,
Yeah.
that's a whole other animal. But
But that's
is that
also-
part of this list
Yeah.
of stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
Because
My letter's going into the current and the incubus.
because we need to get these under control with safety and teaching, kids, whatever, because they are a great thing. It's just a
Well,
question.
think
we
about
don't
it, in the
want
seventies, when I
negativity.
went skiing, there was no one wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
And I go to ski
Right.
mountain, you'll attest, when 99% of the mountain has a helmet. And the 1% don't. And
Yep.
so I think we can flip the culture to say, hey, we should be doing.
We
this.
love these, we're trying to accommodate them as fast as we can, but we can't have this Wild West e-bike issue,
Right.
It's,
What about noise on them? Is there I bet you somebody comes out.
Put a card in and.
We can have music. I don't know what it is,
No.
but there has to be some kind of noise in these things.
I think a bell in that, I think ski etiquette on
Yeah.
your left.
Yeah.
Little things you can do. I mean, I dinged my bell at Brooke yesterday. And she like looked at me and it's like, oh, I didn't recognize you. And I was like laughing on my bike ride, but that's the point. It's like I rang the bell and she was kind of in her zone walking, so.
God, that
But-
sounds so old school, the bell, Schwinn.
I
Schwinn bell.
use a bell on my bike.
Yes, amazing.
I ring it twice from a distance when I get close and I say, on your left, every time I pass someone, and then I say, good morning.
Yes.
And I'm the only
We're happy you're
weirdo
here.
that does it.
I do that. I don't
You know-
ride my bike that much, but I do it when I do.
When I-
It is rare and
Be old.
half the time I still scare the living daylights out of people because they've got loud
Yeah.
music in both ears.
That's
Right.
that's part of it all.
That's part of it.
See, and
Yeah.
there's another piece that we haven't accounted for is pedestrian traffic and how they behave and what are their distractions amidst the whole thing.
Well,
So
the three
okay,
walking
so-
across.
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
Not paying attention.
but definitely, I'd be the first one to be absolutely thrilled and sing your praises if you could
Yeah.
just get him to
You gotta
wear,
start somewhere.
just get him to wear
You're
a
all in the
helmet.
shadows when I go out there.
You know,
No, I know.
you may want to mark this off in time. Because technology will ultimately change again. And so
Well,
in 10, 20 years. If not sooner, there'll be new technologies that you're gonna be faced with out there for moving people along.
Yeah.
That are gonna be like, we never thought or had figured out how to encounter, how to deal with that particular issue. And I'm kind of going back to when we were all horse and buggy out here and the first few cars.
Yeah.
Started to show up. And if you want,
Touring
you want,
cars.
yeah, if you want a good laugh at history, you ought to
I know.
read up on that because it just. There are certain parallels that are
Wasn't
sitting there,
folded.
even with where we're.
Yeah, and I totally get it. I mean, it's.
Oh, yeah,
Great
I know.
mode of transportation and
Yeah.
Gary Roberts is saying, more people on the buses, et cetera, but I also think that the bikes are also helping. And I know most people say it's the worst summer of car congestion, but I think there's a balance that's coming and if we can kind of control, I think it's gonna go in the right directions.
Yeah.
So.
Unfortunately, I hear that litany every year. It's the worst summer.
I think that, well,
We're gonna put the all up on the board and see which one really rates this is. But anyways,
but I can
So-
only do it as a home rule petition because.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna come
I
forward and then it has to
understand.
go up that way. So that's gonna be buddy.
so is there anything else on this topic? Because we wanna kind of move
Yeah.
on here. So Mike, that's gonna bring us to the. Is it KEI or KIA class?
I'm gonna say Kia.
Okay.
And if it's okay before I jump into this, Mr. Chair, I'll just say, talking to the police chief last week, there's been just a lot of bike crashes recently. And the one thing the police chief said that we really need to do a better job. And we have the brain bucket stickers, and and the communication staff tries to make it a cool thing to wear your helmet. I can't remember the word, that's debonair or something. I can't remember. That you just try to make it fun to wear helmets, and it's just not happening. So I think we all kind of feel the frustration about why that isn't cool and how can we make it cool. I don't ski that much. Those who do, why is it so cool to wear a helmet when you ski? Maybe there's some kind of how that can translate over into the bike culture on the island.
That's what sounds good.
And people
But
look at trees.
Oh, yeah.
That's cute.
thanks for letting me deviate just a little bit just to participate in that. But with the registry of motor vehicles, this is more of an announcement and maybe just to gauge you all to see if there's an appetite to follow up on this. But the registry of motor vehicles, as is included in your packet, has are no longer registering these Kia class mini trucks and vans. There's some images in the packet of just some examples of these type of vehicles.
Yeah.
They're on the island. We all see them. I don't have, because they're not specified in a specific class, I don't know what that number is from the registry of motor vehicles. I can't get that data from the state. Although I do know that they're very popular. The reason they've been removed because they didn't meet certain highway safety thresholds, seat belts, bumpers, airbags, collision tests, and whatnot. There is in the United States, in order to import those class of vehicles, they're required, if they're imported, to be restricted as low-speed vehicles. That's a limit of 25 miles an hour for their, and they're just not restricted. They don't have that. So that's why there's this effort to restrict them now, is because they don't have the speed restrictions that we require in the country. So just to let you all know, a low-speed vehicle in Massachusetts is any four-wheeled vehicle that has a certificate of origin, is of a certain size and weight class, again can go at least 20 miles an hour, but no faster than 25 miles an hour. And that classification is within the vehicle's VIN number as a low-speed vehicle. There are operational restrictions. The vehicle has to be registered, titled, insured, and inspected through the registry of motor vehicles. They're prohibited from highways. And they are not allowed on roadways that have a speed limit in excess of 30 miles an hour. So 30 miles and under, low speed vehicles are allowed so long as they have a plate and a licensed driver operating them. So, Mr. Chair, since the registry of motor vehicles is no longer registering these vehicles, and as the federal government does have a restriction that these types of vehicles be operated as low-speed vehicles and have those restrictions on their operations, I would suggest that perhaps you could recommend that staff draft a letter for the chair to sign to the registry of motor vehicles, requesting that these Kia class mini trucks and vans be registered as low-speed vehicles if those vehicles meet those standards.
So you've heard Mike's request at this point and some of the background behind it. Is there any further discussion you'd like to have?
Sure is.
Please.
Couple questions for Mike, if I could, before Nat sighs.
I had signed on this. This is great.
Mike, is this a final determination by them, by the RMV?
Yes, there is and Mass DOT staff sent me this. It's a training update where it kind of outlines that the registry of motor vehicles is no longer registering these vehicles. And again, this is that's where I got the material for the slides, is right from this announcement from Mass DOT.
And if they were to be designated as a low-speed vehicle, would there have to be a governor installed on them? Because they definitely go faster than 30.
Right. They're not all the same.
Correct. And not that I know so many people with these vehicles, but I did talk to one gentleman who had one of these vehicles. His goes about 40 miles an hour. But again, the requirement from federal highway is that these vehicles, if they're imported, it's not the federal highway. I can't remember who the restricting at the federal level, what the restriction is from the importing. But to import these vehicles, they need to be restricted to 25 miles an hour. And there are vehicles that just don't, whether they're older older than 25 years old, or some other reason that they don't have that restriction on them, because they don't, they can't be registered. So
the
that's
ones, these guys are SOL, basically. Going
with,
forward.
without an option, and that's the whole genesis of this, Mr. Chair, is to see if the region would like to reach out to the RMV. And again, I've been liaising with staff at DOT to see if they're willing to participate. They seem like this is probably a good path to take, to give that option and to at least allow them to be on roads in Nantucket, or in Massachusetts in general. But just have them have this be set to operate at a standard of no more than 25 miles an hour.
Great.
So they,
Thank you.
So, go ahead.
so they'd be on Milestone Road going 25 miles an hour?
Thank you.
They wouldn't be allowed. They wouldn't be allowed.
Which is
Right.
crazy.
On any street that has more than a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, if it's a low,
Yeah.
low speed vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And they, I'm assuming if a registration and the existing one expires, it won't be allowed to be renewed.
Correct.
We don't know about that.
All right.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
All of our friends, and they're so cute.
there's nothing wrong with these vehicles. They're
Nice.
Nantucket.
They're
They're
perfect for
made
Nantucket.
for Nantucket
Perfect
and the
for you.
vineyard, maybe. Now that they have a roundabout. Mike, I know you and I had a blowout with this the other day when you told me. I couldn't believe it. Talk about green versus, we're trying to get smaller. And now we're saying we don't want something that works perfect for us. And now we're gonna have an explosion of golf carts and daffodil flowers hanging off of them in April and everything else, and they have an LS plate. But those aren't driving Wisconsin. Mike, you can hear me, I know that. So I'm gonna just say this, if we let this, we send the letter with your recommendation, I think that they'll just sort of just have a different plate, and they're just gonna keep doing what they're doing, which is what should happen. This should be one of those we turn the other way things and just forget it. You can't have people with these things get pulled over because they're on a highway, which it ain't a highway. It is, but it isn't. Popus Road should be 30 miles an hour anyway. I mean, it's just like unbelievable. The guy that cleans the windows, what's his name? Has had one of these for a while. And now there's about 15 of them on Nantucket, at least. It might be more. You think there's more than that? No, I mean, I'm just saying, there's a lot more. I'm trying not
You
to
don't even mention the
exaggerate.
little vans too, because there's a bunch of those.
I looked at Vicky's the other day when she came by, I was out by the street, and her speedometer goes way up. So, I mean, I don't get.
Kilometers.
Oh, is it kilometers? It might be, I don't know. But I mean, I think that whatever the state does, we have to we can't like make our own rules for license plates. But we can make our own rules for what we let go. And I think that that's what's gonna end up happening.
You can't get them registered.
No, LS.
Oh, yeah, LS.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right? So no one's gonna pull them over because they're on Popus Road in an LS vehicle going 35 like everybody else. That's ridiculous. So I bet you that this will find its way to ban these vehicles and say you have to have a bigger pickup truck that burns way more gas. Like, how stupid does that sound? What if these were electric? We'd really be looked dumb. Doesn't make sense to me. We got electric bikes driving on Wisconsin Road. We can't drive this. That's crazy. Sorry, I'm done. This is unbelievably upside down.
Leslie?
I just thought I would share something funny while we're talking about this. Megan and Mike and I have been talking about putting in for our budget for the upcoming year to buy a low-speed vehicle. And all of this talk about speed limits made me realize I don't think we can get out of our parking lot without violating the laws.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
So
Yeah.
I think we may have to abort mission on that one.
Like,
I know, we have it all.
Fairgrounds Road is 30 miles an hour, so problem solved.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
perfect.
fairgrounds, sorry.
I just have a question. I mean, I agree with everything you said. But the Mookies or the Mokies?
Oh, most.
Aren't they, don't
That's a
they
good
fall into the
question.
same?
Are they LS?
They're
I was about to bring it
electric.
to-
All the newer ones, I think, are
Yeah, but it's
electric.
still LS though.
Are they LS? I don't know.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
They only
I
go-
don't know, I think they're all.
Well, there was only
So-
one, there was one Moke in Nantucket for years, and now there's a few of them now.
They're
I mean, in
more-
Wisconsin,
Probably about
the
a
blue
dozen.
one.
Mike, do you have an answer to that?
Yeah.
Good question. Mike, do you know what a moke is?
Yeah, they're low speed vehicle. I sent you one Friday, I think, Nat, didn't I? One that was downtown. And that had an LSV plate on it. If it's going out to Nantucket, probably on a road that's greater than 30 miles an hour. But yeah, that's it's registered as a low speed vehicle.
There you go.
All right.
Okay, so this, I guess, okay, I'm gonna follow up to Christina's question, Mike. I don't know if you have the answer. But how long has LS license plates been available by the registry?
Gosh, I think I'm going to say 2008 because of there was a special act that allowed them, but I might be messing that up, so I don't want to give you bad
So
information.
it's not like it's been around since the 70s or something.
No.
So what's happened in my, my government hat thinking hat, they've just haven't got to this yet. They've got other stuff that they've tackled, but these things are probably on Route 3 or 93 or 128 once in a while, causing a problem like, we got Mrs. Rynamo driving her yellow car on, going 22 miles an hour. And that's probably what's happened. And here we are in Nantucket loving these things, and they're gonna screw it all up. Well, there you go. That's what's happened. I guarantee it.
But we can request that they're registered.
Allowed to be registered and kind of make our own little thing happen. This is reminding me of the thickly settled thing, Mike, 25, we couldn't enforce below 30.
Right.
When we had the old 20s, 20 stickers, now we got the big fancy ones this year. And now we have 25, legally allowed to be enforced in thickly settled areas, which we never had that on Nantucket.
Mike, it's John. Could you just, if we did this, but would the vehicles have a governor on them or not? Are they gonna be going?
That is.
Hmm?
I don't think he understands what that is.
A governor?
A way to make the vehicle cannot go certain,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Well, no, but if it's.
A speed restriction.
If it's a.
If
speed-
if they get made that way, they won't be on the road.
Well, here's the deal,
Not
though,
bad.
I think, John, and I could be completely wrong. If it's registered and licensed as a low-speed vehicle, it's not allowed to be on any road that has a speed limit greater than 30. So whether it has a governor or not,
Right.
it's still not allowed to be on a road that has a 35-mile-an-hour speed.
It's,
That is true.
yeah,
That's true.
So you can only landscape the town.
No, I mean,
Well,
it's asinine for this island.
It is.
Yeah,
It's
I
like the
agree.
best
I
thing
agree.
ever, these things. I love them. And you don't have to park on the sidewalk. John Wagner would love these.
Yeah.
Even on Quinn Street, you might not have to. Oh, my God. Mike, sorry that you have this job.
Is Mike looking for a motion for the chair
I-
to write?
would you do me a favor, Mike, but thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Mike's request at the moment.
For starters.
Okay, is there further discussion you'd like to have on this? What?
We might, should we have a caveat or anything? You wanna do that, Brett?
I was gonna suggest that we write this, but also say, given the current circumstances, Nantucket is writing this letter, however.
Yeah.
We value the potential of these vehicles for our tight roadways, for energy efficiency, and for all the other reasons we like them. And would encourage the RMV to find a way to make them viable for our community or something along those lines.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Mike, is there a certain deadline this has to be in by?
I'm sure there might be a Kia class vehicle that has expiration or registration that expires in a couple of months. So they may be pushing for it, but no, this is an initiative that's already in place. They are no longer registering them. So we would like to, I don't think there is a deadline, but I think we could be quick about it.
Do you, all right, so with that in mind, do you think it's worth just putting this back for a month, drafting some additional language in that we can all feel comfortable with? And then deal with this next month?
You can do it.
I just, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would argue that the sooner the better, and that I would trust staff and
Yeah,
the chair to take care of it.
100%.
I would, yes. I
Yes.
agree. Yeah.
So if it all falls apart, it's on my shoulders, eh? Uh-huh.
It won't. I have
Yeah, you know, it's
great faith in all of you.
So I make the motion that we adopt the letter with the additional language that outlines Nantucket's desire to find a way to make these vehicles
But
allowable on all of our roads
Yeah.
sometime in the future.
Yeah.
And we leave it up to the chair how to word that.
Absolutely.
So that motion is made and seconded for discussion. The only thing I'm gonna say to you is that once that's drafted, I may want to send the final draft out to you all just to look at it.
Sure.
Comments will be back through Mike only. There'll be no group discussion on it, and it'll be within a certain time frame.
It's fine there.
All right, because I really do want you all to see it and digest it, because we've had a lot of conversation that has moved above and beyond the scope of what was being asked. So I just want to make sure that we're kind of getting it right as well too.
I just think it's
So-
gonna be problematic for a lot of people, and if we wait another month, that's another.
That's
month,
okay.
so, Yeah.
All right, so
Okay,
we'll
fine.
get some draft language out to you, and so you can see what it is, and we'll try to be expeditious about it. Okay,
Thank you, Bert.
Great, thank you.
any further discussion before we go to? All right, so you know what the motion is on the floor at this point, Matt,
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Wendy,
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Mike? Aye. Joe?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Abby?
I said aye.
Oh, thank you, good. Bert?
Aye.
Yeah.
And chairs in the affirmative.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus,
Aye.
I told you, listen. I really wasn't.
Funny now.
No, I'm kind of expecting my glasses to go flying forward this way if I keep doing it.
It's my biggest fear as chair that I'm gonna skip over somebody, so I feel.
And I get it, I get it. So Brock,
Aye.
thank you so much. All right, there you go, Mike. You got it?
Thank you all. Thank you all. And just to be clear, I'm not the registrar at the motor vehicles. I didn't create the problem. I'm just bringing you some
Oh,
solutions. So
that's fine.
I know those are
Right.
important vehicles, but I appreciate the vote and and I'll circle back with you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Okay.
No.
So that's gonna bring us into enabling legislation discussion and the work group update. So. I'm not sure where to even begin. I think it's better just for us to focus right down into where the work group is at the moment. Leslie, do you want to kick this off a little bit?
And I actually have made some notes about it that I
Good.
see I left on my desk, so I'm
So,
reading it a little bit.
Yeah, so just so you're aware too, besides the three members of the work group, staff, which is Megan and Leslie, have also been in attendance as well. Which has been very helpful, even just as for something as mundane as doing minutes. But we do appreciate it. That's right, we don't have to do that, I'm sorry. But it's been good to have it there nonetheless, to get additional perspective where it need be. So Leslie, I think I'd like you to start the process if you don't mind.
All right, so you all may recall at the last meeting, you voted for the chairman to establish a work group of 3 members of the commission. And those 3 members were Barry, Abby DeMolina, and John Kitchener. And in attendance at the meetings were Hillary Rayport, Rick Atherton, and
Georgia raised it.
Georgia Raceman. And we, at the first meeting, had a few people in the audience as well. So there was a meeting held last Wednesday. Okay, no, sorry, right, last week, and then again this morning. And, there was a lot of discussion about, areas where the 2 groups could maybe come together in agreement, and a lot of discussion about the issues that are not seemingly going to line up. And I just want to point out that I think it's really important. It seems like this is getting overlooked, that when Ms. Rayport brought her article forward the first time, which I think was 3 years ago, it really, spurred the commission members to take a close look at the existing legislation and whether or not it really is, you know, where we are today, if it needs to be modernized, what changes need to be made, and it's been taking a while, but, you know, a lot of progress has been made, and I think that, you know, shouldn't be discounted that, you know, the legislation was first adopted in 1973. It was adopted again in 1981, and then in 1991, somewhere along those lines, and then again in 2018. And what I've discovered is the only changes to the legislation throughout those amendments was just rather straightforward changes to the composition of the members. So I looked this up today because we had a conversation this morning, and the original legislation had an HDC member and a housing authority member. Those two people were taken away in the early 80s, and more at-large members were added. Then in the 90s, the housing authority position was added back. The HDC was not. And then in the late 2018, the superintendent of public works was taken out. So those have been the only changes. And, you know, the commission over the past 2 years with, you know, talking about composition of the membership and talking about, you know, what's our vision for now and going forward, what's our mission, what are our objectives. I mean, that's, you know, I think a big accomplishment to have taken on, even though we haven't really finished the work yet. So following the meeting, I think that there's 2 real sticking points for the citizen petition side, which was having an appointee from the historical commission and having at least some elected at-large members. Those were the 2 points that were discussed the most during that time. And so there wasn't really a compromise per se, but there were definitely, you know, discussions about, again, like what can people sort of work with in terms of their end goal, or what can they not work with. And I think for now, like the commission should, you know, stand by their position of opposing Article 16 at the special, and, you know, not to be uncooperative, but you've been doing a lot of work, and I think it's important that you finish your process for your updates.
Thank you. Abby, your hand is raised at this point. I was gonna call on you and John anyways, and probably chime in afterwards, but I'll let you go first.
Sure. Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Thank you, Leslie. I think that was a pretty good summary. I would just add, I know myself, Barry and John have also like done some research, as obviously Leslie and Megan have, with also getting some context and understanding of what other regional planning commissions do throughout the state, and getting a little bit of feedback. And one thing is, like, I know there's a very strong desire to have a voting member from the historical commission, which was one thing that went back and forth everybody on mainly. And I think part of it was because obviously if we do that, we would have to take someone else off, but also, you know, I think there were differing opinions on which organization. So I just wanted to give people a little bit of feedback. I spoke with Holly Backus, who everyone knows is a town preservation planner, and she spoke with the state historic commission and asked them about how it works for them with other RPAs. And what they mentioned is that usually, and this is the recommendation that Barry had given, is usually they work directly with the staff member, or the other option is if it's in a community where they have someone who is on the planning board and also on a historic commission. So that's just from the state experience, like what they've said. So I thought, you know, Barry's idea was a really good one, where he said we would kind of reinstate these regular reports from the staff member. And again, that's just not just, you know, my opinion, whoever, But that was also just to give people a little bit of feedback of that is how it usually works with other organizations throughout the state. And also a little bit of the feedback as Leslie gave you that, we had someone from the HDC, they moved off. I think it's not because people don't think preservation planning is important, because I think everybody does. It was just more making sure that the commission's as impactful as possible. And so I just wanted to give that feedback. And I know also we had talked at our last meeting about appointed versus elected. And John, you can probably give a little more detail about how it looks from the state. But I think our concern is, again, not that we don't believe in people being elected. Obviously, many people in the room are elected to your various boards or commissions, but that we want to make sure that this commission is accessible as possible. And personally, for me, that was one of my concerns, just because I know, any election is daunting. And John even brought up a really good point today that there are just some people who won't want to run for election because it's just not something they're interested in. And I think that the appointment process just helps keep it more open to a larger swath of the community. And if we truly want this commission to be as representative as possible, I think that's really something to keep in mind, because as we said, elections aren't free. And also, there can be ways that, if you have more money, you can put out more signs, different things like that. And so I don't necessarily think for the at-large roles, that's the best way to go. But again, that's just my opinion. So I just want to say those two things.
Yeah, so I'll pick up from there on the large members and how many and how they should be appointed or elected. Reminded Village Group that we've already ourselves decided on most likely reducing the planning board membership from 5 to 3. And those members are elected anyway to their primary position. And that's, as a relatively newcomer, it seemed to me like a big move towards what I thought Hillary really wanted. So that, and we also agreed that we all think it's a good idea for the land bank to have a seat, which is the same thing that they were doing. So, those two things before we even sat down, I think, we should show good faith in moving towards them. However, so let's just start with the number of acknowledgements. Hillary was adamant to begin with that they want 5, and they want them all 5 to be elected. And what we did was we had to just make sure that Hillary understood that we were negotiators, we were not decision makers. We were going to come back to this board with whatever came out of it. So in terms of the elected, the appointed members, so we she did move off the 5 to 4. So,
That was after.
It was after 10, yes, but yes. But she wanted 2 of 4 to be elected. She agreed to 2 being appointed and 4. We talked about the appointment process and what all 3 of us agreed was the county commissioners or select board, but I guess county commissioners would be the best place to appoint new members to this board, regardless of how many it is. But that would be a better place.
At large.
Yeah, the at large members. And you know, again, I was a little disappointed with Hillary because I haven't been here as long as you guys, but I did hear a couple of times over the last couple of meetings that, you know, she didn't feel that it was right to have this board appoint its own members. Okay, well then, this would move it out. This would move it out to board people that have been. So the best that they would agree to or offer is 4 elected members, 2 appointed, 2 elected, 2 appointed by the county commissions. That was as far as we could get.
Go ahead. Finish right because.
Yeah, so then, I don't want to repeat what Abby said, but this whole thing about the Historic Commission. We did try to get some conversation going about the GLC instead of CLT.
Okay.
CLT. That met a stone wall.
Certified local government.
Yeah, that met a stone wall. So we really stopped that conversation. Because I think, well, just for me in particular, without an agreement on the at-large members and how they're appointed, there's little point in giving up anything else that not in that session. So, yeah, so that's where they would, at least on the at-large members, then the best was 4, not 5, 2 appointed, 2 elected. Leslie, is that accurate? So perhaps that's okay. Perhaps that's a place to decide. I don't know whether this is the moment when we want to talk about that, but that was the yeah.
I just want to chime in too on the 2 and 2 thing that was brought up by one member. So I didn't walk away feeling like they were all on board with it. That was just one person bringing it up, and it was, you know, in what, this was your Catherine, you said, in the spirit of compromise.
Yeah.
That, but as to whether the larger group under Hillary out there is willing to accept that is still, it's totally unknown. Because as one member, I didn't really walk away feeling like that was well vetted out or accepted at this juncture. It could be in the future, but right now, there's no way to know whether that's there or not. There's a few more things I want to bring up, but let me, you know, John, Abby, you good at the moment?
I just make one.
Please.
Yeah, I had a comment too, but John, I'll go after you.
Just make one more general point. I mean, careful choosing my words, but it wasn't really a negotiation. It wasn't 2 groups trying to, okay, we'll give this, you give that, and we'll all go away a little disappointed, but we have something to move forward. It didn't really have that feel for me. That is what they in fact wanted to do. So,
I was just gonna say the same thing, John. I think what I had a hard time with, and obviously fellow commissioners, as you knew, I had voted against it, but the reason why is I didn't really get the feeling that there was any appetite of true compromise, because it seemed to be a lot of what our and as Barry pointed out, there's a lot of hard work, and sorry, I think Leslie, you also pointed out, there's a lot of hard work that has gone into what we came up with our proposal, and it was immediately kind of like, cast aside, like, that's not a compromise in itself, in that we hadn't really done anything. So I guess I had a hard time feeling like there was really going to be any sort of compromise, and also, as Barry, you said, and what that compromise was going to look like. Was it going to be taking no action at town meeting? Because I think that that was brought up and kind of discarded. Then it was, well, maybe we'd make amendments at town meeting, but then there wasn't any commitment to that, because I think that was brought up, but then I don't know if it was, I think it was Rick, and then Georgia said, well, we're gonna call the article anyway. And so then it was kind of like hard to understand what actually was a compromise going to look like, in the sense of like how the actual execution and implementation. And so I think without understanding that, it was really hard to feel like we could be truly working together to come to a compromise as a group, when there didn't seem to be an idea of what that was. So I think that for me was what was rather difficult.
So I want to chime in on a few things, but what I'd like to do too is kind of also hear from you all as well, and kind of see where this discussion takes off to. I'm going to concur with Abby and John at the moment. There was a lot to unpack here, more than I think people realized with it, but it was also a function of, I'm just going to stop right there. Let me just stop right there, because I think that's the prudent thing for me to do, and just see what you all have to say, and maybe chime in on a few pieces depending on what. So I'm going to reserve my right to be able to do that. Yeah, Nathaniel.
I'm gonna ask a question for you.
Me.
To the group, to the commission.
Oh, yeah.
How many people watched Wednesday's meeting on YouTube? Okay. I just want to make sure that everyone watched it, because it's hard to talk about that by just listening to what John and Abby say. I watched and listened to, I didn't watch today's, but I watched Wednesdays or Thursday, whatever day it was.
Today's it's posted too.
Is
Not posted.
Well, you would have had to been watching it.
hold on, Megan.
I sent it to the communications office, they then upload it, so it's not.
You would have had to have been on today while it was happening. That's what I meant.
Correct, okay. Got it.
I was asking two different questions then.
That's okay, go ahead now.
So I was like talking to myself more than usual in my yard, listening to this, and I wanted to stop. I wish I could have, if I could have been there, I would have wanted to stop every statement that was made that was either not correct or leaving out an important piece that is not telling the full story. There was so much of that. It was unbelievable. If that kind of a back and forth happened at town meeting, it would that article would never pass, because people would be so confused that they wouldn't have any idea what was going on. This is why I keep saying town meeting is not a public hearing. It is hard to articulate what you want to say in a short amount of time and hit all the points you need, and then someone else says something else and you can't rebut it. You have to just let it go, and that's it. So to get back to John and Abby's, Barry, you did a great job, by the way, keeping yourself, like I would have had a tough time. Okay, you did good. I couldn't believe it. The number, I want to talk about 13 versus 11. We used to have 12. I didn't know about the HTC, Leslie. How did I not know that? How did I not know that? Well, anyway, that's a good one. We took the HTC off, and that's all we talk about is historic now. I mean, I can't believe it. Anyway, that must have been due to the change of the 1970 or something, but I don't know. But anyway, so we were 12 for years. like adding one to me seems like not a big deal. I want to talk about, you didn't mention the one planning board member. She wants it to go to one still. I forgot to talk about that.
That's why there's more I want.
I know you do, and I want to just say, we compromised. I was against 3. But I saw that being okay, it can actually help us to rotate. Somebody has a reason to get off for a year from the planning board, they can kind of just, we can appoint somebody else and all that. But to go to 1 makes, that is just, there's too much connectivity between the planning board and the planning commission, in my opinion, to do that. The term limit thing didn't come up Wednesday. Pretty much, I don't even think it came up at all.
It did, I will tell you,
little?
between both meetings, it has been,
All right,
it has come up, so,
All right.
but anyways.
okay, and I get the whole thing, it's a soft term limit. How about 0? Like, there's just no need to make that. It just doesn't gain anything. Like, it's pointless. The historic thing, the CLG stuff I just learned about. I didn't even understand it and had to have that completely explained to me in complete simplicity, okay? And now I understand it.
Can I
Okay.
stop? you
Yeah,
for a
go ahead.
second? Do you all, when we use CLG, do you all understand what we're talking about? It's kind of complex.
It's
No.
Because
interesting.
it's really,
It's worth a.
It's like learning
but
what the
yeah,
Jones
let
Act
me,
is.
all right, so I'm gonna turn to Leslie to talk about that for a minute, because instead of just throwing out a term that you're not really clear about what it is, let's bring some clarity to it, and let's bring some clarity to what the CLG is and what CLG is and what components it draws off of within town of Nantucket in this case to make it work. Because that's kind of an eye opener to things. So I'm gonna give Leslie a minute to compose herself there with
I
that.
just want to open their committee page, so I don't misspeak on exactly what they do. So just give me a second. I know who they are. I don't want to mischaracterize what they do. Yeah, right. Well, this is not-
I don't want to get us too far off tangent from, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to reflect, we're talking a lot about the details of what could be agreed upon and not agreed upon. And I want to take a step higher and say that when I was part of proposing this option of getting together and trying to work things out, my goal from a process point of view was, we have a warrant article coming up in 3 weeks now at a special town meeting. We have a parallel and separate process that this group has been undertaking for an extended period of time, long before I've been here. The question ultimately for the voters will be, do you adopt a warrant article submitted by a citizen group, or do you accept before the compromise started, do you accept the planning commission's self-evaluation, self-reflection, and creation of a new structure of membership and name and all of that? So those were like the 2 decisions. You can decide this in September or wait until April for the planning commission's version of this. So my thought was, let's try to get together and circumvent the voters being asked to do one thing that's been proposed and another thing that is still in process. And maybe we could come to an agreement to postpone the option on the table in September in favor
that's right.
of a worked out compromise.
Yeah.
It sounds to me as though that is not a viable path process wise. So to me, the fact that we're weighing in on the details is almost unnecessary. we're not going to, it doesn't sound like we're going to get to that agreement from that citizens group to not call their article in favor of continuing to work with the planning commission on our version. And so it seems to me that at the moment, there's nothing to do other than to continue the path we had, which is advocate against the citizen warrant article in favor of the work that's been done here, perhaps with more input from the proponents between now and spring.
Yeah.
Where they could convince this commission to change its path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a long-winded way of
No,
saying,
you're
let's
right.
not,
Now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was part of actually what was brought up in conversation, and
Okay.
there's no want to really give us, because that was one of the things I asked for,
Time.
more time.
Yeah.
More time, and there was just a feeling of that was gonna take place. I see Hillary's hand up. I really
Oh.
like to kind of work through the commission first. And then we'll see where that brings us to at this
Right.
point. So
Can I just
I
finish
just want
what I was
to
gonna say?
acknowledge that,
Yeah, just
just to stay on topic.
yeah,
though,
I am,
not to-
I'm
okay.
finishing up.
Okay.
So the other piece that I want to just be clear about is the county appointment part versus the MPDC and the county. Like that, when we did the survey that was sent out by staff.
Right, so
Yes.
I'm gonna,
I'm just saying, my feeling was, I'd like to have both, but I'm totally fine with county. At the time when we came up with that, and what Dawn did, actually, at the beginning of this, before Brooke was actually a member. I didn't want to put it all on them, be honest, because they have to do everything else, but that is the answer. Ultimately compromising, having the county do the at-large appointments, in my opinion, as John articulated it in his first statement. That is a concession to do that, to take it completely out of the planning commission's process to appoint the at-large members, I think is a big concession to me.
all right, so you've kind of taken this, I want you to hold that thought.
Okay,
Please. It's a really important point.
Yeah.
But I want to get into the CLG thing
Yeah.
before we get,
I'm staying out of that one,
But
now that I understand it, but let others talk about
but
that.
you've raised, I just want to say, you've raised a good point.
Yeah.
That I think, I really, as one person, I'd like to kind of weigh in on it too.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of keep us back on track to where we were. So Leslie, you got it?
Yep.
CLG.
Okay, so the Certified Local Government Commission was established locally in 2021. The town filed an application with the National Park Service to establish the Certified Local Government Commission. It's made up of the Historical Commission members and the Historic District Commission members. It's established under Section 101 of the National Historic Preservation Act. And they, having that program approved gives the town eligibility to apply for certain federal grants for historic preservation. They have a role in nominating properties to be on the National Register. And we get increased technical assistance from the Mass Historical Commission. So I think what's really important here is the Certified Local Government Commission includes both the HDC and Historical Commission. And so in the event that a seat was provided to that group, a person could be picked from either the HDC or the NHC.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation. Does that help the two of you? Just Wendy, does that help explain that?
Yeah.
Okay,
I guess, and it doesn't sound like something that meets all that frequently. It's
Yeah,
more of
do
a
they meet?
procedural.
Do they have a schedule and are they on the web town website? Do they have minutes and all that?
Sounds like more like a-
They're
Yes.
at least once a year.
Abby, hold on.
Probably knows
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, all right, so Abby, go ahead.
Talk about it as the member on the CLG. We have to meet at least once a year. Obviously, we could meet more frequently. We do have minutes. There is, as Leslie brought up, there is a webpage on the website. So all of those things, we do have a signed MOU between the HCC and the NHC and the state. And we're actually working on a separate MOU between the HCC and the NHC. So there is that level of like governance that does exist, and you are required to have meetings as being a CLG. So just FYI.
Does that? Just so,
I can.
no,
in what
please, I need you,
context-
I want you to
In
make
what
sure.
context are we talking about the CLG? I'm sorry. Are we talking about having a
The
seat for the
seat,
CLG?
instead of
So-
it being strictly historic commission, it would be one of
Okay.
one
It seems to
person
me
from
that-
those two.
The historic commission is a parallel structure to every other commission that we have on here, and it's also, I mean, we just saw their recommendation tonight with the Pleasant Street, so it seems like the group that's more directly involved in the things that we talk about here, rather than the HDC, which is more like, this is, you know, for Micah, huh? You know, so it just seems like, you all know I've been in favor of a historic thing, being very involved, the NHA, et cetera, so I guess I don't see why we're looking for the CLG to, I don't. This is just new and I don't understand it. I like the historic commission. I mean, Abby's on it, so right, so we do have a member, which is.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think if you look at the NHC is obviously a part of the CLG. I think the thought that some of the discussions that come up is obviously it's a wider group of people because you're only picking from a certain amount if you're only picking the NHC. But also, I mean, we used to have the HDC on this commission as well, so there is some history of doing that. And I think it's like a broader group of people who you would be choosing from. And also there is some people have brought up the concern of like appointing from an appointed board, which obviously the HDC is elected versus the NHC, which is all appointed. So I mean, those are just some of the other things, but I think again, it was just the thought and I mean, I asked Holly, who again is our town preservation planner. I mean, I think there was also some thought that maybe we don't need a dedicated voting person if we have Holly, our staff, being the advocate as well. Like, because to your point, Holly is obviously the person who knows preservation planning the best. If she did come to speak to us directly, she could always say, hey, you know, I'd like, it could be HCC, it could be NHC, whoever, do a presentation. And as I pointed out, that is something that does exist at the state level as well. So I don't think it would have to be the CLG. Also, obviously, Holly, she is our CLG coordinator. So again, like if you're looking at where the real connection point is, it really would be the town preservation planner as opposed to like an appointed board nominating an appointed person. So I mean, again, I think it was just people were throwing out like different options and opportunities and trying to keep it broad and make sure that it, you know, we get someone who cares a lot about it, has a lot of knowledge, and is able to truly address these issues. But to your point, it wouldn't have to be anyone. Like I personally think Holly would be fantastic. And I really, like I said, I really like the idea of if Holly, no matter what, comes and regularly talks to this commission, I think that would be a value add for everybody. But that's just my thought.
I think I know, yeah, it's true. I know you're gonna like go around everybody, so I'll just finish my quick thoughts.
Yeah.
One is that, well, I guess I lost the first one. One of them was just that the elected argument, I still am in favor of the 2 and 2. I said that last time. And I just think the argument of more people running, it's like, do we want the select board to be appointed? You know, of course, I mean, you have to have elected people. And you want the broadest range of the public to be involved, of course, always, but that argument,
I'm not sure. Anyway, that was my one thing about that. And the other was God. Oh, I just wanted to repeat that I love the idea of having the regular check-ins. We touched on it earlier and Abby just repeated it, and I totally agree. Having Holly come, having the chamber, all the things we've talked about. We haven't talked about it that much recently in this, new iteration of the
And
planning commission,
I
but
think
structurally, it's important.
right, and we've actually had these dialogues, and I think I'd like to recap. Kind of how did we get there, what were some of the foundations behind it, because that's very important. Time moves along and we're kind of like, yeah, we made this, how did we make this decision? So I think that recap is a very necessary thing here. To begin to understand why we're trying to do certain things. I don't want to get too far off. If Dave, are we on the same, are you
Well, I
on the
just
same
wanted
page
to
with me? Or are we going
I
through a
just wanted
different?
to address the elected part. And I respect
And
what
maybe-
Wendy's saying.
And forgive me for even bringing it up.
No, no,
I
no.
think it's the weeds that we probably should.
Yeah, and I don't want to get in the weeds too much,
Yeah,
but
sorry.
there's, that I can think of, there's one advisory board on this island that has elected seats, just one. And that advisory board often has empty seats, and it would be Shab. But all other advisory boards are. And I don't want to get back in the weeds on this or anything, but I think we started down this road to make this board more inclusive, to broaden the participation. And I think we've done a good job doing that. I think that we needed to get rid of the optic of us appointing our own. And by moving to the county commissioners, we've done that. So I'm just a little bit frustrated in what we're doing here. Because I think that we have, as a commission, have accomplished all that through our hard work. And no disrespect to Ms. Rayport, because I think that she has the same intentions. She just is on a little different path than we are, and we can't seem to match up. So I don't,
Is
I'm
there
just
another meeting? Sorry.
frustrated by this all because
No.
I think that
Not yet.
Hillary's gonna call hers.
Thought there was.
So I'm not sure why we are doing these, other than what Brooke said, doing these contortions to try to accommodate her desires, because my personal opinion, I think we've accommodated all of her desires in some sense, other than the elected positions, doing it ourselves. And we welcome the input, we welcome the challenge, but at this point, it doesn't seem to be productive. And that's all I really have to say. Thank you.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to do just a really quick recap here, because I think it's important as a perspective. One of the things I'm going to say is, as we're doing the overhaul of this thing here, we have, this was another point that was brought up, is that I had to agree with it initially, that we in our current capacity are really land-based. What was the term that kept coming up? Land-based use?
Land
Help me.
use.
And land use boards.
Thank you, land use board, okay. And to a certain extent, that's very right now, given our composition, but we're moving outside of that. Okay, and one of the things I was really pleased with is that we have moved into some very different territory, which I really feel as though reflects a much broader perspective of Nantucket. So we've drawn in on things like the Chamber of Commerce. And also, one of the reasons that we did the Chamber of Commerce too is they have incredible regional outreach. Just like your rural policy.
Not to do with business, it's to do with.
But it's
voice.
to do with a bigger,
Yeah.
in my mind's eye, it's to do
Totally
with a
different.
bigger perspective of other things that aren't just land-based,
Yeah.
because I think we're more than that. So this is where we started getting into bringing the cultural council on board, getting contract review in, or only because we want to bring in that human component to it. So there was a little bit more broader based diversity on how this board would begin to reflect in the future. And I'm thrilled with that. It's time to get into the bigger scale of, even the cultural dynamics of what drives that. And those are some things I think as a commission, we should be on board with as well. The only way, short of people coming to us, we may not always think about reaching back out. But I think by having them here and maybe fostering that culture a bit, you're gonna maybe be surprised that we're gonna get some more robust things going on from a community perspective about this. So the other part of that is as we began to figure out, we all did this according to sectors. I think for those of you who were here for a while, we did this according to sector-based things. And there were a lot of different sectors that came up, and ultimately we kind of began to say, well, some sectors are more important than others, or we felt that way, but dropping some of them off just because it was getting too big, I honestly didn't feel was a really good idea. The converse of that is that the commission all of a sudden becomes unwieldy. So this is why we had that separate discussion about how many members do we want on board. It's 11 versus 13. We settled on 13 because the 13 now becomes a lot more inclusive of what we see as a bigger sense of what this commission should look like. But there were still a few that I think we wanted to hang on to. So instead of adding more members on it, the thought process here was to do like we did with Mike Burns. Mike Burns is a shining example, and I heard that maybe, depending upon who you talk to, staff wasn't as desirable, but Mike Burns I think is a shining example of how well you can integrate staff into it, because the converse of that would be, well, let's put someone from right-of-way committee or the roadway committee in here instead of Mike Burns. I'm just saying that there's a much bigger component to this. So the thought process was, if that works well, then let's try to bring on staff who can keep us abreast of things. And now all of a sudden you're looking at bringing Holly on board, who's got the perspective from both commissions. We talked about bringing Lauren Sinatra on board because the energy component, my God, that's a big thing. That's a wicked big thing.
She's connected to the state.
Yeah, she's
Constant, all day.
Right.
All day.
But nonetheless, so that the board didn't get unwieldy in terms of just sheer members, that there was another approach to this. And then to make sure that it just didn't fall off the radar, it was a matter of bringing them in on a religious basis, making them feel, instead of like them having to come to us only when needed. Now we're going to dial them in on a quarterly basis and hear from them. And of course, the expectation would be too, is like, if something comes up in between, well, hell yeah, we want to hear from you. Absolutely. So I just want to put that perspective in place, that it wasn't, those decisions weren't necessarily made in a vacuum, or I feel like they weren't well thought out. I think they really were kind of well thought out in the process. And maybe not what everyone wants, but there's that happy medium, I think, that can occur. And, as I've said to people too, we're moving into new territory here at this point. 3 to 5 years down the road, we may be saying, what we're thinking. But that doesn't mean we can't change it as well too. But I think this is an opportunity here and now to really make this board a lot more inclusive, a lot bigger, and a lot more of a reflection of the entire, of everything that goes on this. We're going to try our best, So I just wanted to throw that in because I think that's a very important perspective. Do we want to move off this into some other areas? Yeah, I know it's but this is, I think I just said a few minutes ago, I really want the commission.
Oh, I thought you were moving to a subject.
No. I just want to make sure I'm fleshing everything out here with the commission first, because this is important. This is the report. This is these are the things that we should be talking about that have kind of surfaced up out of everything. And here we are again, we're taking time to pause and say, let's take another look at things, which I think is kind of good. Is there anything else? Because I want to go a little deeper into things a bit. Just
I have a general comment, but is there anybody else that's going to do?
Go ahead.
Well, when we finished up this morning, my last comment was, I think Leslie did a great job on, a long time ago, but the last time was in a memo on August the 5th. A 3-page memo, and the really important and exciting parts about it, we haven't even turned the page to yet. The vision, mission, objectives of this organization. And for me, the sooner we can put page 1 to bed and get started on page 2 and 3,
yeah,
the better it will be. I would ask us to even think about, I don't think we should wait until page 1 is settled to start thinking about how are we going to do pages 2 and 3 with what we have as an organization. Because if this is what we should be doing, we should be doing it now. We shouldn't have to wait, for a May town meeting to do it. I mean, that's my only plea, that we move past the script.
Get cracked.
Get cracked.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
No, thank you. It's just that we kind of, in the course of these past 2 meetings that we've had, there seemed to be a lot more than the 2 or 3 points that were brought up. And so I think it was kind of good to drill down into several of the points that were being addressed here. And I really, instead of like, well, at large member appointed versus, I really wanted to break each thing into its own separate component, instead of trying to combine pieces of it together, which I felt was muddying the waters with things. And there were, at a minimum, 7 things that were brought up. And I still think there's a few more sitting out there. But these 2 meetings kind of kept circling back into the necessity of having a historic preservation person only. That seemed to consume a lot of time. And it was just to a point of like, okay, we're just go back around here. And the second thing that was kind of floating out there was really the at-large and all the different scenarios that could fall in underneath it. Those really kind of seemed to be the 2 things we kept dwelling on. But no matter, I still think there was more territory here that really needed to be covered. We did try to cover a lot of the things that were brought up a bit, but I think there's more depth to it than that. There's probably one more thing I want to say, but I want to just draw it back again. Yeah.
Just a point of clarification for this conversation tonight, and thank you for bringing back everything that you guys found, but to kind of go back to Brooke's point, are we in a point of discussing changes that we want to make to our own recommendation, page 1, or are we here to discuss compromises with Hillary, which by the sounds, it sounds like we're not going to get there in the next 3 weeks. Like what's our goal and discussion for this meeting tonight? Because I think that if we're going to have another conversation about any changes that we think that we should make to our own recommendation, that should be a separate agenda item at a different time, so that we can all think about what we can take our agenda, we can take what our proposed is, we can all bring what we would like to see changed to that, or like, I'm just trying to figure out what our goal is tonight.
Yeah, I hear that. You want to take a stab at this? Abby, do you want to take a stab? I certainly can. All right, so
I was just gonna say, I agree. I think what Christina brought up, I think we should do that at a future meeting if there's like a couple of other changes we want to make. I think if the discussion is today, it's what Brooke and Dave pointed out is that I think we just need to move forward with our plan in the more immediate future, which is that, you know, we're gonna go with the recommendation of the planning board and the FinCom that we recommend take no action on the article and kind of move forward on that.
yeah, but actually, I don't think it's taking no action. I think it's not to adopt.
Not to adopt, okay.
Um,
3 weeks away.
where do you see us going? Let me.
Well,
you
I
brought it
think,
up
I
now.
think the commission, I don't think there's anything more this group can discuss to get to any point further, unless we're willing to take a vote that we're gonna make all the changes that Hillary, and you guys didn't get to really like, if you do X, Y, and Z, I will take no action. You didn't really get there, so I don't really feel like there's something for this group to
I thought there was a
conclude.
follow-up meeting, but it sounds like there's not.
Well-
Because if there was, then there would have to be a subcommittee meeting, and then we would have to meet again, and we got
Bingo.
3 weeks.
That's what I
So-
said today, following up.
That's why I'm trying to figure out what this commission can do, what this group right now tonight can do to change the trajectory of, there's a meeting, that we have a town meeting in 3 weeks, and is there anything that Hillary, and I think the only person that can answer that is Hillary, who's had her hand up. So that's kind of why I was saying, what's the purpose of this conversation? I understand that there's more we could change, and I think that that warrants a discussion with everybody to bring their ideas to at another meeting, but that's not gonna happen, and it wouldn't really matter unless it's agreed upon with Hillary, but that's just where I'm at. So I don't really think there's a need for a whole lot more conversation here.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No.
I think you're actually kind of.
And everyone was like,
I think you're
No,
spot on.
Yes,
Christina.
they were like,
Spot on.
spot on.
That's pretty much it. The bottom line here is that you race to meet an objective of dealing with what's before us at town meeting. Or, as I asked for, and I know a number of other people have, is to give us some more time to keep working with those things. This is one of the things I love about this group. It's incredibly reflective on things. And it does take its time to work through the processes. They're not snap processes. Even tonight, here we are, and you know, we're working through it. We spent our last meeting almost close to 2 hours just dealing with one issue. Okay, that is what it is. That's not meant to be a criticism, but it does show how much time and energy you want to invest in these things and give it its appropriate thoughts to do it. So I can tell you my own personal feeling on it. But I'm just throwing that out to you because that's kind of what I'm hearing, and I think hopefully that's a good capture of what you all are thinking here as well too.
I just have one thought around what Steve said. You know, so this would be just talking about what ours is gonna look like. We don't have that much time, so I'm just wondering, because when does it have to?
17th.
September, mid-September. I can't tell you the exact date, but
There's not another meeting of this
Yeah.
commission before
Correct.
town meeting.
That's right.
Tonight. And
There.
then for spring town meeting, if it's a select board sponsored warrant article, we haven't set town meeting date, so there's some room in here, but it's January, the warrant gets adopted. So there's not a lot of time. Even for spring town.
But thanks, Brooke. So my only I guess thing to throw out there is, do we need to, of our own, do we need a little work group that just tries to do some of the work, bring it back, do some of the work, bring it back? Or not, because that.
We could call a special meeting, right, Leslie?
Yes.
Staff.
We can.
Sorry, Barry. Because that was, I didn't want to bring that up, but Brooke has made me have to say it.
Yeah,
I-
because
Because it's true, there's no time left.
Are we talking about
Yeah, for. Go ahead, sorry. I didn't mean to.
for our article, a special meeting?
No,
No.
For spring.
to figure out. Well, no,
No,
I
I'm
meant
just saying, I'm
just,
not saying a special town meeting, I'm saying.
Oh.
To what Christina
Yeah,
said, I'm
yeah.
getting lost here, right?
No, a
Are
special-
we talking about,
That, hold on.
sorry.
about working with Hillary still, or are we
Yeah.
talking about ourselves?
So.
Yes,
I'm,
but John is.
If I may,
yes, please,
all right.
thanks.
So the time to the warrant article that addresses Article 16 is short. Okay. That's only within a few short weeks, and if you wanted to go further with it and discuss it further, as Brooke has said, it would require a special meeting of this.
No, it's not.
I know, but I'm just saying, it's within, no,
Oh.
I know how much you love me.
No,
but
I
let me-
said that.
Please let me finish.
Brooke didn't say that.
Please let me finish. Okay,
Okay.
but that is within the spectrum of possibility. That's all. I'm not saying people want to do it, but it's just within the spectrum of possibility. The other side to this is to move ahead into the next town meeting, the regular annual town meeting. My own sense sitting here is that I think I think we can accomplish that without a hitch.
No,
My-
I think we can do that.
My gut,
Not worried about that.
my gut feeling is that we are now so close that it really, it's gonna take a little time still, but we're close. We're close to bringing everything together.
We do only have four for our regular meetings before.
Yeah.
The gate goes down.
So, John, I'm just gonna say, if I hadn't been laid up for almost the part of close to 8 weeks. All right. And we made significant strides to where we were. And really, as far as I can tell you, there's really only one core issue now that we need to do it, that we need to look at and settle as a board. And then have staff bring all this together, bring it before us as a draft. And then make the final cut on that. We're close. That's my estimate of things here. And I see Leslie shaking her head. Is that a fair assessment?
I mean, the commission already agreed to the vision and the mission and the objectives.
Yep.
You've already agreed on the membership.
Yep.
Which I do not want to open up a can of worms with that right now, because everybody looks like they're fading, myself included. And we've been talking about this for a long time, but I think we're at the point where there was just one little outstanding item that it sounds like people seem to agree on, so we could move forward with putting everything that you've already discussed into the proper format for the legislation. And then have that as a draft for the commission to discuss. I mean, I don't see a lot of, time and returning of everything happening for your article for the annual town meeting.
It feels to me the reopening of what was already worked out by the NP and EDC was in the service of trying to come up with a compromise. Because there's a warrant article. I would like to make a motion that this commission support the planning board and FinCom motions with regard to Article 16 and special town meeting. And let's get that out of the way. And then we can move on toward finalizing our own version of a proposal for spring.
All right, so, man, first of all, there is no planning board recommendation. There's only the FinCom recommendation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Planning board doesn't get.
Sorry.
Commission.
No, that's okay. I just, wanna.
There was a
clarify something.
notation from the commission.
There's a notation, but again, there's
Okay.
no,
The FinCom, so the FinCom
the
motion,
FinCom.
sorry. My error.
I've got Hillary up. I don't know if you wanna let me have, one way or another, I wanna bring her in.
Yeah.
You know.
Before a motion.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanna, but like I said, I really want the commission to kind of have vetted this through.
I say one come before.
Yeah, so if you
That's fine. That's
just
fine.
give, yeah,
Just-
thank you.
We've been going around in circles. a
Yeah, no,
lot.
I hear
So-
you.
Yeah, I'm just, I have to be somewhere at 8 o'clock, so, I don't wanna be late, but,
No,
I'll, if I'm not there, I'm gonna have to move to the trailer on the other side, but, we'll keep going, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm gonna duck out about 5 minutes to 8.
got it, thank you.
So I watched all the meetings. And the other part of it was, they were saying that we're just moving furniture. And I feel like the moment we started getting the meetings, we dropped down to 9 and how do we add pieces? And I feel like we did, it's gotta be around 20 hours and homework and everything, like trying to get this together, and we've had great discussions, and we respectfully gave Ms. Rayport and the group probably about 6 hours, if not more, about discussions. 2.5, and then I think it was an hour and a half you did the other day, and what to do another hour and a half today. So, I mean, you guys, and I'm gonna say both sides did great of trying to plead their case and going on. But the one thing that I was kind of hearing from her side, and Ms. Raisman kind of brought up, like, well, why not go with it? And I just felt like, well, did you not watch our meetings? And I felt like they came in with their own agenda and didn't want to listen to what had already been talked about, and the time and sweat that we had gone through in kind of putting this together. And I feel like we were so close to getting done, and I'm glad we stopped to hear her. And then, okay, so, and like I said earlier, I took her article and then I put next to our makeup, and I went through and then looked at it, and then we started having meetings, and then I kept going back to that. And I think that was a really smart way to kind of go about it, to, like, what are we missing? What was the vote? Why did the people have an issue or whatever? But I think that we've also taken this board, once this gets approved from what we're standing, I think is more inclusive and more of the vision of Nantucket. And I think that we also said, if something's not working, then we'll reopen and we'll kind of keep it moving. And I think that's gonna work well. So I just feel like we're so close, and I kind of on Brooks' team right now about as far as the vote, but I know we should wait. But I just feel like we've heard the public. They came in, we listened to everything they said. Anyone's welcome. So, I mean, anyone has a question, but I also think the staff is going to do a great job. And to say like they're gonna do what we want them to do, I think is disingenuous. I think that Holly Backus has a very strong voice and she speaks her own opinion. I think Lauren's the same way. I think everyone else are gonna bring in Mike as well. We don't really agree on some things, but that's okay. That's bringing up conversations. You shouldn't always agree. And that's not the intention of being contrarian. I think that we want to have these discussions and debates. So I just feel like we have done a yeoman's work of like really working this out, vetting it all from angles, and going to talking to the people of why it doesn't work, what works better. And I think we're kind of close to where we should do this. So we're not being disrespectful to Ms. Rayport or Ms. Raisman or whatever. We heard them, and Ms. Atherton, sorry. But I think we're at a point now where I don't think any judge or mediator would come in and take both, like, find some common ground. I just feel like you guys did an amazing job of having discussions. But in the end, I felt like they didn't plead a case that really made me to switch or change any decision I made. And I feel like you all did a great job of defending where we're standing now today. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. So. Do you, this is where I don't want to let you off the hook here yet, but do you mind if I go to Hill?
No, I mean, process wise, if we had a second for discussion, we can open it for further. Can you take public comment at that point? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it feels a little weird, dude.
Yeah, I was
No, it's
talking
okay.
like-
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to, I didn't intend to not have them heard. That was
Yeah.
not my intention.
Okay.
But I did want to like get us to a close because it's, we're
Yeah.
low on 3 hours and,
Yeah, I know.
and most of it on one top, a lot of it.
And so I
Yeah.
really want to be respectful of my peer as well too, with that. I appreciate it. So Hillary, I'm gonna turn the floor over to you. We are going to thank you for allowing us to kind of work through the process here at this point. We are gonna, let's see where this goes. In terms of how much time that's gonna require, so go ahead.
Can you hear me? Oh, great, you can.
Barely,
Thank you. Can you hear me better now?
it needs, can we bump the volume up a bit? Or am I just getting, am I just losing my hearing?
I can hear.
Maybe
Okay,
just try to
yeah.
speak up as loud as you can, Hillary.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, is this okay?
That's better, thank you.
Okay. Great. Well, this has been a really quite a fulsome discussion, so I don't think I don't want to get into all of my different reactions. I agreed with some of the way that talks were characterized and others I disagreed with. So I'm trying to just formulate my thoughts about how this can really be productive. I guess, I really wish that, well, regarding the comment that, it felt like the petitioners didn't want to negotiate. I mean, we agreed to the negotiation and we spent a lot of time in it. So we weren't there to waste our time. I'm sorry if you had the impression that we didn't want to negotiate, but we did make an offer, a summary to meet in the middle on some of the topics that had the most moving parts, which were how many at-large members, how many planning board members, and if the at-large members were elected or appointed. We did offer to meet in the middle on all of those. And it just, what we heard was that including elected members was a non-starter. And we've heard that again and again for 3 years. And I respect that. That is how you guys feel. You're entitled to feel that way. And town meeting felt differently. And I didn't feel as the lead petitioner that I could just trade that away, because that has been a core aspect of this petition from when it was first proposed in 2022. So that's the first thing. The other area that we weren't willing to negotiate on was including the historical commission. And it's not because we're trying to be, unmoving. It's just that there's really not a middle ground on that, because the CLG does not exist as a commission. There is no municipal CLG commission. And I know it's hard for people to get their minds around that because, well, for whatever reason, but it is what you would be suggesting if you suggest that is that the HDC and the NHC have it jointly. And, nobody suggested that the housing groups have a joint appointment or that the environmental groups have a joint appointment. So it just seemed that if you were happy about the idea of including, the cultural council, you should also be happy about the idea of including what is Nantucket's recognized Preservation Planning Commission. And, I guess if there was one thing that I would point to that was a disappointment to me, was that wasn't something that Barry or Abby could support. And the Historical Commission did take this up at their meeting in August and did vote to ask again and reaffirm their interest in a seat. And so if I had to say, wait a second, what are signs of, really wanting to get along and be reasonable, and what are signs that maybe there was something else going on? I guess I would point to that. But I've said that in the past. And as far as my saying that I would call the article, I just want to clarify that the reason why someone has to call the article is because the motion on the article is not to adopt. And I want to give credit again to the folks on this commission who asked for a motion to take no action, which really would have been more appropriate, because then we could take no action for, because we had a signed agreement about what the next article would say at the annual town meeting in 2025. But we have no signed agreement, and we have a motion from the FinCom not to adopt. So we're kind of in a box here. And there's also been zero movement on some of the things that were really foundational for the petition. I do want to lastly thank you for a big concession that came out in the talks today, which was to move the appointing authority to the county commissioners. And this was not agreed on Wednesday, but it did appear today that that was acceptable. And I agree, that's really encouraging. But and I would still agree to what I told the group already on Friday, and what Rick outlined that we would agree to. But at this point, I agree that there's not really time for more meetings. Thank you.
Megan, something caught your attention there for a second with.
I would actually defer to Abby to summarize the conversation that took place at the historical commission meeting. It's my understanding that as Hillary described it, it's not how it transpired, but I wasn't there. So I would defer to Abby.
Abby, do you mind? She's there somewhere. Wow. That was a long expected. Abby, are you still there? All right. All right, so I hear what you're saying, Megan, that.
I don't want to miss.
That's not what I understood.
I was
Yeah,
Yeah.
with Megan as well.
What's that?
With Megan as well on that. That's what I understood.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I know, sometimes we all hear things differently, but I hear what you're saying as well too.
So I would like to repeat my motion.
Okay.
And let's move this along. I think that we've heard from the petitioner. We have fundamental disagreements about the content of these meetings, the interpretation of what happened. The purpose was to try to come together. That's not happening. So I will repeat my motion that the NP and EDC support the FinCom motion not to adopt Article 16. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Do I hear a second to that? Second. Motion's made and seconded. Is there a discussion? Hearing none. Let me go around the room at this point.
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
Your name.
Aye. Mike? Aye. Brooke?
Aye.
I'm sorry, you're just at that.
Hit Brooke again.
Very.
Motion, sorry.
I know you did, as a matter of fact. I'm gonna go see my,
Keep going.
I'm making it with my optometrist afterwards.
Aye.
Thank you, Joe. Christina?
Nay.
Nay. Bert?
Aye.
Abby, are you there? I feel like I'm conducting sessions. Chair votes in the affirmative as well. Okay, thank you. So that passes. I just want to wrap something up here real quick. I just want to leave you with one final thought. I'm really fuzzy about some things that may have been transacted in the past under different leadership with this commission, but I want to at least say to you right now that I want to maintain that kind, just like we did with this work group. I want to kind of still continue to maintain that open environment. People shouldn't feel like they can't approach some of these things. So I hope Hillary hears that loud and clear, or any of the other people, that we want to try to remain open to things, because we're only as good as what people will bring us sometimes as well. I walked away with just a slightly different perspective. I just want to put that assurance back out there. So anyways, all right, thank you, everyone.
I'm
Good
gonna
night,
take
Mike.
take the opportunity to skip out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. I
Thank you.
really appreciate you
Sorry,
hanging
everybody,
tight.
for having me.
Thank you.
Run, Mike, run.
Run, Mike, run. There you go.
Have a good
All right,
night.
so let me turn this right over to Leslie, which is the an update on the NOAA right whale speed restriction legislation. Boy, if that hasn't consumed time.
Well, not as much time as other things, but luckily. So I just wanted to give you a quick update. I mean, I don't really have any new information, but I wanted you to know that on behalf of the commission, I sort of reworked the letter that you all submitted before and added some new information. The town has received some very preliminary economic data from the consultants at UMass Donahue. So that was added into the letter. They will be providing, UMass Donahue will be providing additional economic analysis and a report. We just didn't have enough time to get that in the window that we needed it. So that's coming in the next month or so. And we'll share that when we have it. But letters were submitted, Barry signed them. In opposition of the speed rule to Coastal Zone Management Department, to the Department of Commerce, to NOAA, to Marine Fisheries, and to the Office of Budget and Management. So I have heard some rumblings that we may have some new information coming forward in the next couple of days. The U.S. Secretary of Commerce has become interested in this topic. And so that's hopefully something that will be helpful. So when I have more information, I will share it, but I wanted you to know that those letters did go out and they were in your packet. The one that was sent by KP Law on behalf of the select board and the one that we sent. So, and I didn't put the same letter in repeatedly, but the same letter was sent to like 5 different agencies.
And if I could just add to that, there is a lot happening privately, publicly. The delegation, this path that appeared straightforward and not good is running into barriers all over the place, and that's good news for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully all the advocacy that everybody has participated in across the community is having a positive impact on this. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
No stone unturned.
There you go. Anything else on that?
No, that's it for now.
Thank you. Board members, anything? All right, that just brings us to one final thing, committee reports. And as you know, if you've got nothing to report, that's fine. Anyone have anything?
No.
No. Okay, so unless there's any other business before us. Great, thank you all. We can hang out here for a while.
My mouth over again. Today.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Well, it's all up to you at this point.
So moved.
And do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, real quickly, Nat.
Aye.
Dave. Aye. Wendy.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Brooke, I see you.
I see
John, yeah, Joe.
Aye.
Christina.
Aye.
Abby, if you're there.
It's my dad and my brother.
If not, Bert.
Yeah.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate all the time and energy you spent on this. Awesome.
Have a good night.
Night now.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, right side.